All right. And when Ryan and Carolina, if you guys have anything, just chime in. All right, everyone, I'm 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins. We are live now on Facebook. We're going to be streaming here for the evening hours and wanted to give you an idea of where we are as far as Eta goes. We wanted to get on tonight because right now is where we're seeing some of the highest wind and rain levels in Pinellas County. It's coming out of Manatee County and moving up in through western Hillsborough, western Pasco County, in fact, all the way up through Pasco and eventually in Hernando and Citrus County. So that's where we are now. Winds are at 70 miles per hour as of the 7 o'clock update, okay? It's moving to the north at 12. The highest winds are just offshore out here, thank goodness, but they're getting closer and closer to the coast. I'm thinking 35, 45 mile per hour sustained winds in Pinellas, right along the coast. Gusts will be near 60 miles per hour. And this is the next hour or two, okay? And then as this drifts northward, it's actually going to turn a little more northeast, and then this eye wall here is going to come on shore. Center probably goes up towards Levy County, but that would put more of that eye wall into Citrus County later tonight, closer to about midnight. So the worst weather now for the Tampa Bay area is actually coming through at this time. Conditions have been improving the further south you go. I mean, look at the radar now. There are some breaks in here. It's starting to fill in, but it's filling in with lighter rainfall at this point. The yellows that you see here, that's the heavier rain, and that's where we have the highest wind totals as well, too. We've been seeing gusts generally in the 50s in this band right in here for Pinellas County. So that trend will continue, and it will basically drift northward through the next several hours. So what we saw earlier in Sarasota, then in the Manatee, we're now seeing in Pinellas, and it's on its way into Pasco County as well, too. No watches at this point. We had a tornado watch that expired at 5 o'clock. We can still see some tornadoes, okay? Isolated tornado chance is still with us. There's actually a little bit of rotation moving out through Polk County, and it's been these cells that have actually produced a better chance for rotation anyways. You tend to see that a little bit displaced from the actual center, but you can find it in there as well too. So that's something that we'll be watching for. Now, storm surge is going to be an issue, and I'll talk about that, but that's really going to get started after about 9 to 10 o'clock tonight when the winds start to turn onshore. Now, they are a little bit onshore down here because it's more of a south wind now for Sarasota County, all the way up through Manatee County. So we're talking Anna Maria Island all the way down, really down to Sanibel, right? They've had south winds down there. But notice the winds now in Sarasota, 22 mile per hour winds, gusting to 35. That has really come down. The sustained winds were about 10 miles per hour, or maybe a little bit more than that. We had sustained winds about 35, 36 miles per hour earlier, now down to 22. Sustained winds in Sarasota, that's Venice, excuse me. Sarasota is 25. Bradenton not reporting. You're going to start to lose power. We've got a lot of power outages reported in Bradenton, in western Manatee County, as these cells went through. 39 mile per hour winds right now in St. Petersburg. That verifies as tropical storm force winds. 39 and above gets you, well, 39 to 73 is tropical storm force winds. So now we have sustained tropical storm force winds in St. Petersburg. Doesn't help that it's coming across the bay, right? There's nothing to slow it down, so it's going to certainly be on the faster side as it gets over to the sensor there at Albert Whitted Airport. 37 mile per hour wind gusts at Davis Islands. Albert Whitted, 26 sustained. 15 in Tampa, 30. Tampa is on shutdown. The airport shut down, likely opening up early in the morning. Conditions will all get better for everybody as we get past about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. 45 mile per hour gusts in Clearwater. We've seen gusts there in the 60s to near, the 50s to near 60 mile per hour earlier today. This, you see the color shading here in Manatee and into Pinellas. Just take this and extrapolate it off to the north, because that's what's going to happen. Okay, and as it moves to the north, conditions will get better here. And then they'll get better here, and then they'll get better here. You get the idea. It's moving by to the north. Now, here's the track from the Hurricane Center. So this takes us out through Friday morning. Look what happens. This is tomorrow morning. This is actually late tonight, like 2 in the morning or so. 65 mile per hour winds. Still waiting for the numbers to come down on this. Recon was out there, and they really only found about 56 mile per hour winds, but we know we've got some higher winds in areas. Then it moves out tomorrow afternoon over Jacksonville at 40 mile per hour winds. So you see it's certainly coming down. Our concern is what's to the east of it and to the northeast of the center, because that's where the weather is for the most part. There'll be some trailing rain bands, and they could actually produce a little bit of minor flooding tomorrow, tonight, late tonight, and even during the day tomorrow, at least the first half of the day. As this trails off, they'll be extending down to the south and the west, and that's going to give us a slightly better chance to see some of those training over the same area. That's where you have a point here, and the rain just keeps blowing over the same spot. Cold front is coming through. It's getting picked up. That's what really changed this forecast. That cold front now is going to be strong enough, the trough ahead of it strong enough to suck this thing up and basically spit it out off the southeast coast, and that's what's happening. Kind of typical, but the models weren't seeing that initially. Remember, the models had it here, then coming north up to here, and then maybe coming back out there, not getting picked up. It turns out it's getting picked up. And that is why you're probably sitting here saying, well, I thought this wouldn't happen until later tonight and tomorrow. Everything changed when that's decided to happen. It's starting to push off towards the north and the east. Now, you can see the models here are producing basically the same forecast, right? They're real good agreement as it moves off to the north and the east. So all of this rain here is going to push off to the northeast and continue basically in that same trajectory. So even if you haven't seen as much rain up into certainly eastern parts of Hernando and Citrus County, although you have seen a lot, you're going to see some more. In fact, I want to give you some numbers here real fast. If you look, we've seen 4 to 6 inches of rainfall in Sarasota County and parts of Manatee. Is that Manatee? And 1 to 3 inches more are possible. So meteorologist Autumn Robertson, she's over here.
Is that my name? I think that's my name.
She's going to take a look at that. Look, those are impressive numbers.
Very impressive. Just in Manatee and Sarasota counties alone, 6 inches just within the past few hours here. About 5 inches in southern Pinellas County. As you get further north, of course, you're not seeing that much rain, but it is going to continue to travel further north, just as Bobby was saying. And because of the rainfall and the consistent rainfall that we're seeing, an aerial flood warning is in effect for Sarasota, Bradenton, and also Pinellas County. I'm not sure when that expires, Bobby, but pretty much throughout the rest of the night. We're already seeing that heavy band of rain. I'm actually going to get to this radar imagery here. You see this heavy band of rain pushing in here. That looks to be kind of at least the last bit of significantly heavy rain that we'll see over the next several hours here, which is a good thing. But it still has a lot of rain that's supposed to be coming down over the next hour or so. It's going to continue to push more so to the northeast over the next several hours. And you can see all of Pinellas County blanketed in very heavy rain. That's what we're going to continue to see over pretty much of the evening here, and same for Bradenton and also the Sarasota area. But the main area getting the dose of the heavy rain at this point and throughout the rest of the evening will certainly be Pinellas. It's going to head into Hillsborough as well, even parts of Pasco over the next hour or two. Bobby.
Okay, thank you very much, Autumn. And I do want to take it back out here just real fast, guys, because we do have an aerial flood watch for the area, flood warning, I should say. The aerial flood advisories for Pinellas County, and basically that's where we've seen some of the highest things. These are flood warnings here as well too, but those are basically for the rivers. But that heavy downpour she was just showing you there in Pinellas County, aerial flood advisory in effect, and that's going to go until 10:30 this evening. And that basically means, hey, we're starting to see some flooding. We've had enough rainfall, and we're going to get another 1 to 3 inches on top of it. So, Ryan, that's the one area that we're going to be keeping a very close eye on. Taking a look now back at the radar again, you're going to see it's starting to clear back out here, but you see how it extends to the south. That's still a lot of rain that's going to come through. The heaviest, though, by far, is what's falling in there right now.
And Bobby, we're going to keep checking back in with you here throughout this digital show. Ryan Bass here with you, Carolina Lead also with me. I do want to get to a news alert out of Manatee County. Remember earlier, if you were watching our show earlier on at about 5 o'clock, we had Jacob Sauer. He was with the Manatee County Public Safety Office. He came on and talked a little bit with us about what was going on down there. Well, we actually just learned that rescue crews were working on what appeared to be an electrocution at a home in Bradenton Beach. First responders, they cut the power. They found a person dead inside of his home. Investigators tell us there was also standing water inside that house as well. We don't have any other information at this point right now, but what we can tell you again, when you have storms like this, you have to be so careful with standing water. Even if it's in your home, you want to try to do whatever you can to make sure that you're not around that standing water just to be as safe as possible. So again, we're getting more information on that. When we do have it, it'll be available at 10tampabay.com. Want to go back to Bobby Deskins now as we kind of take a look at what's going on around here. And Bobby, just for our viewers that are tuning in here digitally, we've been doing a couple of hours of coverage here. Where are we right now? What are we looking at as far as the worst of it, and when can we expect this storm to continue throughout the rest of the night tonight?
Let me back out here then real fast. And I want to get over here to this one cell here in just a little bit. We'll go back out to Polk County, but let me show you here where we're at. All right, 70-mile-per-hour winds, likely just offshore. The center is sitting right here. It's almost 38 miles due west of Indian Rocks Beach right now. Just talking to Rick Kirby about that, and he was saying, I think he said about 34 miles at this particular point, but it's right there. The heaviest part of the eye wall is right here coming on shore. All right, and that's going to continue to throw the heaviest rain and heaviest wind. Now this here is heavy, but it's more spotty. The wind is less here than it is here. And that's why I say this is the worst that's coming through, excuse me, that's coming through right now. Now, I did want to real fast take you out to Polk County. And this is what I was looking at when we came over here, because there is a little bit of rotation. No warnings. Nothing like that at this particular point, but if you look right here, due east of Fishhawk, there's a little bit of rotation. It looks like trying to hear, it's almost a hole in the radar here. That I think is not a huge deal. If I switch back over to the radar, you see this? That's what we're watching, right in that area right there from Rolling Hills. I think this stays just west of Mulberry, but it is moving up, and eventually it's going to continue off towards the north-northeast, very, very slowly, more north than anything else. Not slowly, about 50, they've been going about 50, 55 mile per hour, this particular one. But if you live in the western part of Lakeland, keep an eye on that cell as it comes through, all right? Willow Oak, same thing. Watch that over the next 15 minutes for Willow Oak. Give it about 30 minutes by the time it gets into western Lakeland. Carolina?
All right, Bobby. So earlier this afternoon, Tampa International Airport was closed right around 3 o'clock this afternoon, and we have been telling people throughout this evening that you want to make sure that you call ahead and that you know ahead of going to the airport that obviously the airport is closed, and make sure you get updates there, as well as Sarasota, the airport there, Bradenton Airport, suspended operations as well. So make sure that you check in with your airline on that. Now, earlier today, HART suspended all services as well as PSTA. There are school closures, with many transitioning to online learning for the rest of the week. You can find a full list of all of that right now. That's at 10tampabay.com. As of right now, Pinellas, Polk, Citrus, Hernando, and Pasco County schools will be closed tomorrow. Sarasota County says it will open on time tomorrow. That's a change. We were waiting on that update at 7:30. We got the update. That's what we have.
Makes
Hillsborough
sense.
County, yeah, it makes sense, Bobby?
Yep.
Given the area. Okay. Hillsborough County will be closed tomorrow as well as Friday. There are also several universities that have canceled classes for tomorrow as well. Again, you can find all of that information, right? We're talking about a lot of schools here. You have it all in one place. It's at 10tampabay.com. And we've made it really easy for you to track the tropics from your home. All you have to do is text the word tropics to the number on your screen right there, 727-577-8522. We use that number a lot, but we want to make sure that you can get right to that information. It is our hurricane headquarters. We will send you a link with the information that you need there. We're going to check back in with Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins. What are you looking at? I know you're going back to your computer and pulling up some stuff there.
Yeah, I was trying to get some cameras pulled up here. Guys, if you can throw up the, maybe Autumn, you might even be able to do it. If you could pop up the Clearwater Beach cam, we're going to be watching that. We're getting to the point to where some of this heavy rainfall it's right now embedded in southeasterly winds, south to southeast winds, right? That's getting ready to change. But the good news about the timing of that is that as the heaviest rain and wind, and we're talking 45 mile per hour plus winds with gusts near 60. By the time that drifts to the north and out of the area, then the wind will start to blow a little bit more onshore, and that's when we start this storm surge issue. That's happening right now down in Manatee and Sarasota counties. But if you're watching from Pinellas County, this is about it, guys. This is about as heavy as that rain's going to get, is about as windy as it's going to get as well, too. And it's going to continue moving right up the county. You're going to have probably more heavier winds than anybody through this whole thing. I mean, some spots down in the beaches in Sarasota County.
So, Bobby, for people right now that live in our coastal communities, is it key to really keep an eye on high tide, and then that with a combination of storm surge kind of gives you an idea of when to really be watching out for it, even though it's really throughout the entire night?
It really is, but no, it's a great point. It's actually
Combine
a great
the
point
two.
because 3 to 5.
Yeah.
I mean, and now this really jumped up this afternoon. It's been 2 to 4 since mid-morning, and then this afternoon, well, I guess it was early morning, mid to late morning, they jumped it up to 3 to 5, and that's just because that center is getting closer to this area, right? It was down here, well offshore, so you're looking at the right side, right side, right side, right side. You see how much closer it's getting. And then as it gets biased, the wind starts to blow onshore. So let me show you what we call the wind radii. This is from the National Hurricane Center. It's a product that they give us. And they have color-coded where we see what type of winds. So let's go here. Let's take you out and I'll show you now. The yellow areas here, this is just updated, this is great. The yellow areas here are tropical storm force winds. What we're watching and what is really important is what does this area right here look like? Because obviously we know we're getting high winds, but this is a southeast wind that's blowing basically offshore. It is blowing some water up into the northern bay, that's for sure. We're definitely going to be seeing that. But what's going to happen is this is going to move out. So let me put this into motion for you. Let's go out to about 11 o'clock tonight. Those winds in Pinellas County right now, that weather you're getting now will be improving. The winds will be decreasing as it moves to the north. But this is 11 p.m. Now the winds are starting to blow a little bit more onshore. Now we watched the surfers out there. We watched those waves. They were real smooth, right? It's going to flip around. It's victory at sea out there. It's white caps. It's blowing water in. The waves are blowing in as well, too. So the surge is going to start really in the Tampa Bay area around 9 to 10:30, somewhere in that time frame. This is 11 o'clock. You can see it's already blowing on shore. It's already started down here. However, this is 11 o'clock, and look at Sarasota. You know, get down towards Venice and Vamo, those areas, the wind's coming down. We're not seeing tropical storm force winds. We're not seeing it in the 30s. It's down in the 20s, and it's gradually decreasing. Now, let's go further out in time. This is 3 a.m. Highest winds up near Citrus County. So between 11 in western Pasco p.m. and then 3 a.m. in western Citrus County, that's where we'll see the highest winds. Notice the winds, though, they're out of the southwest still, and there's going to be some really good wind, and that's why I say through 3 a.m. for that surge. High tides between 9 and midnight tonight, so unfortunately it hits here right around the times of high tide, and it's going to stay up for a while because we're still going to get this wind on the backside. Remember, look, there's nothing. The wind blowing out of the southeast is blowing across the land, and that breaks it down a little bit. When it's coming out of the south and west, it's just water. There's not much friction out there to slow that wind down. Typically, and in this case, the wind on the backside is weaker, but it's still strong enough that it's going to push, I would say, a good 3 foot in there. Now, the forecast now is 3 to 5 foot, but I said certainly plan on 3 feet for most locations if you live right along the water as that moves further by later tonight. And then actually it's going to, of course, move out of the area. Now, there's the track. I don't normally show you the line here, but at this point in the game, it's pretty much a good idea to show you because there's the center. There's nothing out here, right? All of the weather is over here, so if you extrapolate that rain along that track, it's going to turn it all inland and move it out across towards Daytona, eventually up towards Jacksonville as well. Moving to the north at 12 miles per hour, keep it going. Keep that thing going because the sooner it gets out of here, the quicker, obviously, our weather will dissipate. I mean, so obviously middle of November almost, right? If this was September, even October, that's the time of year that we start to watch, especially October, when we start to watch the Caribbean and watch storms coming up at us from the southwest, just like this one is. That's pretty typical for that time of year. But the water's usually a lot warmer. And this had warm water down to the south, and you can see the shape that it had. It just boiled up over that. But as it got a little bit further to the north, dry air got sucked in here. It kind of broke it up. You can see what the dry air is doing. And there's a little bit of shear out of the north and the west as well, too. You know, we've gotten pretty lucky so far as that's concerned. Could have been a whole lot worse.
Is there any chance of this stalling or slowing down at all?
There is a chance that it slows down a little bit, not a lot. Now, there was that chance. Caroline, I don't know if they could hear
No, you couldn't hear my mic. I was just wondering if there's a chance that this, based on what you're seeing, if it could slow down or stall in any way throughout the night.
Slow down, yes. Stall, no.
Okay.
Because as it's making that turn a little bit more, coming up here like that, that sometimes allows it to slow down a little bit. But it's not a sharp turn.
Got it.
You know, it was going to make that 180-degree turn almost like it did the other day down in the southeastern Gulf.
Still, Bobby, just north of Citrus County was when you could see the center of that storm. You said around 3 a.m. tonight, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think the center may go in there up towards Horseshoe Beach, up near Levy County as well, too. It should be a little bit weaker by that time. That is the forecast. Recon's been out there, 56 mile per hour wind. That was a 10-second steady wind. Surface pressure of 990. Pressure's actually come up now. It's up to 993, so that's since the last time they've been out there. But those are decent numbers, and you can see just, again, a lot of the dry air has gotten in there on that western side, and it continues to wrap in, and so that will actually break it down just a little bit. There you go. You get the idea. If you do a longer loop here, this northeast quadrant of the storm here, and it's just going right over Pinellas County right now. That's going to move right up through Safety Harbor, right up through Oldsmar is going to get it. West Chase, all that area in northwest Hillsborough County, the Keystone area, up into Trinity, Newport Richey, all, Land O'Lakes, even out east of I-75 in Pasco County, like Wesley Chapel area. But the hardest hit areas are going to be right up here in the west. And again, it's just 35, 45 mile per hour winds with gusts in the 50s, but that can do a little minor damage, and that's what we've been seeing. That is the best chance for power outages to go, and I'm sure Ryan will keep us updated on that coming up. But we've seen as this side went by Manatee and Sarasota counties, power outages were just dropping. So I expect to see something very similar there. All right, now let's take a look at the bigger picture. Is this going to take me all the way back? Yeah, okay, good. This thing made landfall last week. 150 mile per hour winds. Hundreds missing in parts of Nicaragua and Honduras.
We have that young girl who died as well. I mean, this is
and mudslides.
sad, yeah.
150 mile per hour winds. Came off, reformed, second landfall in Cuba. Saturday night, it made a second landfall in Central Keys. And here's the difference. Here is why, let me take this out now. Here's why you're wondering why we're in this boat now, because we thought it was coming up to the north and coming. This happened right here. So it comes down, it goes like this, it stops. Yes, that's what we thought. Then it was going to curve and come to the north, and then was it going this way? Was it going to kind of go that way, fall apart? It didn't. It didn't go north. It went northeast. The center reformed. And then once it got a little bit further over, now it's in a better position to get picked up. And that's exactly what's happened now. But that right there is 12-hour difference in time. All right, because it's not just hanging out and slowly drifting northward. Now it's turning northeast and speeding up. And so plans for, I was saying the other day, you want to be done by mid-afternoon on Wednesday. Well, we already had the rain in the morning, but the wind, that was pretty good time because the wind really got in here later this afternoon. But even that would have been too late to get it all done just because of how much it moved. Now, look what's happening over the Keys in southeast Florida. Those rain bands can actually still produce some severe weather. We had severe thunderstorm warnings out of that band earlier tonight. And some gusty winds. As the center gets all the way up to Jacksonville tomorrow, and our winds are coming down and it's a lot nicer out, we're actually going to get some dry air wrapped around it. We're going to have some of this area here, these bands, still extending across especially our southern counties. So we're going to have to watch that. Polk County, you're going to be dealing with some of these bands throughout the day tomorrow and into the afternoon and evening hours, I think. It won't be an all-day rain, anything like that. But look, the center's left about 30 miles west of us right now, right? Look at the heavy rains coming across South Florida, who's absolutely saturated, Ryan. They've had the wettest October. Now they've got 15, 16 inches in Fort Lauderdale.
I wonder why my mom keeps complaining from all the rain down there in Aventura.
I know, my mom too. Like, okay, I got you.
She's complaining that we don't know what we're talking about. Those guys, they said it would. I don't know. They don't know what they're talking about.
When you grow up here, you hear that a lot. Your mom's like, I know. No, Mom. Okay, let's just let's listen here.
No. You should see the conversations at my house.
Oh, I don't even want it.
Isn't it Tropical Storm ETA, right? That's what your wife called it?
She called it ETA.
And it kept looking like that to me as well. I'm kind of with Debbie on that. I'm like, ETA.
Well, when we get a cold front, my kids show up at school with shorts and T-shirts on.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah, like the shoemaker.
That's my bad. I gotta put
kids
something
have
on
no
the
shoes.
I'll come home at night and I'll put a dress code on the fridge. That's what I do. But yeah, they've just had incredible rainfall down south, and so that's really going to be kind of pushing offshore for them. But I want to watch for something like this trailing to form out of one of these, and that's what tomorrow will look like. So we're getting. I mean, if you're watching in Sarasota County right now, the worst is over. So really, really good news there. And Manatee actually is improving. But Manatee, we still have, and even in Sarasota, we still have that surge. And that's going to go through about midnight tonight before things start to get a little bit better there. Now, watch what happens. Look at the purple there. It's 2020. Look at the timing. I mean, literally, a little bit of convection and then, whew.
Goodness.
It's covering our main areas
A bunch of
right
convection
now.
right around the center, right as it got very close to us. Now, what happens is you have cooler water right in that area right here. Let me draw.
That's incredible when you see that picture right there.
Isn't it? I mean, like this line, and then you come down to about right here. Everything north of here is in the mid 70s temperature-wise. Everything south of there is 80 or better. It gets really warm down in here, right? So as this thing is kind of weakening with some drier air, watch as it gets right to that difference between hot and cooler. That's what we call a baroclinic process. That's more kind of like a cold front. That cool, dense air is pushing in. It lifts the warm, moist air out ahead of it, makes showers and thunderstorms along the front. Something similar happened right there. But it happened right at the edge of that cooler water. And of course, it happened right on top of us. And so that's why we've had what we've seen in Manatee County tonight. I mean, that's pretty wild there. Wind shear is going to get on it. You can see it pushing right up in here. You see how these clouds are going pretty faster? It's been expanding out to the north, but watch the last couple frames. It's expanding, and then it kind of gets picked up and goes to the northeast. That's going to help pick it up and take it out of here as well, too. So, Ryan, all good, you know, right now. The worst is coming through. If you're north, if you're Pasco, Hernando, Citrus County, the worst is coming tonight. Although, again, 35, 45 mile per hour winds with gusts near 60.
And you had mentioned Sarasota, and I want to show you a quick picture here, Bobby, and this was from Sarasota PD. This is a look at Gulfstream and Coconut. This is down there by basically downtown Sarasota. So if you're thinking about where this is, think across from Marina Jacks, right across the street, adjacent to the Westin and the Ritz-Carlton right there. Look at this. This is the flooding they're seeing. Sarasota PD sending this out. We talked about earlier in our early show, Bobby, about the amount of rain they were seeing down there. Some of the tornado watches in that area too. And this is it just goes to show you how much rain has been poured. I don't know if you can give me an idea of the rain totals, but it's pretty nuts.
That's hard to tell if that's from rain or a little bit of combination of both. The higher tides and then the rain just can't drain.
Yeah, it might be both. I do want to give you one more thing too. Governor Ron DeSantis tweeting this out just a few moments ago. FEMA has granted his request for that pre-landfall emergency declaration for this tropical storm. Great news ensures we will have all the critical federal resources they'll need to get through this storm. I want to run you through just a quick thing.
Ryan, oftentimes people always wonder why the governor would issue that, and a lot of it has to do with funding, right? They're trying to get ahead of it.
Exactly.
They don't know what's going to come, what the damage is going to look like.
Exactly.
So you get ahead of it.
And that's so we have the resources to help a lot of the areas that could see some potential damage. Right now, 10,000 customers, a lot of that in the St. Pete Clearwater area without power right now. The outage map looking at Tampa, 1,300 customers. When we looked at Duke Energy, that was way higher than what we saw just a few hours ago. We talked about Sarasota down here, about 5,200 people in Sarasota County without power right now. Manatee, we're looking at about 2,100 people. So we'll keep an eye on the power outages here. We know crews have been out there trying to restore power as quick as they can. But again, when you've got weather like this coming through, you want to make sure that they stay safe. There's certain ways that Caroline was talking about earlier, the trucks, when the wind is bad out there, it's tough for those trucks to get out there. So we're going to have continued coverage on our digital platforms, Facebook, YouTube. We'll be streaming here as well. We do have a quick cut in though for Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins to inform our viewers on 10 Tampa Bay about this ongoing storm. So we'll take that in a minute here, and we'll continue to see you guys. Just hang tight here on Facebook. We'll be back in just 1 second.
tonight's lineup. Look at all those power outages. What about Duke? Good evening, everyone. I'm 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins here in the Weather Center, keeping you updated on Tropical Storm Eta. The heaviest winds and rain are moving through Pinellas County, western Hillsborough, northwestern Hillsborough, especially right now, and will continue to drift off towards the northeast. It's actually moving to the north at about 12 miles per hour. But you can see this is the eastern edge of the eye wall, basically right in here, and that's what's brushing up against the coast. Conditions have been improving, at least as far as wind goes, in Manatee and Sarasota County. A little bit more spotty rain, it's still heavy at times, but now the wind is a little bit more onshore, so storm surge is becoming a little bit more of an issue here. That will be the case for the next couple of hours, and then that threat will start to shift northward up into Pinellas County. Still some south to southeast winds, but they'll turn south and southwest through about 9 to 10 o'clock tonight, and that's when you're really going to see the water levels come up as that water gets pushed right up, not only onto the beaches, but into the mouth of the bay and up into downtown Tampa area. You know, the normal spots that tend to flood, but this is storm surge. This is 3-4 foot. The forecast actually calls for 3 to 5. I'm thinking closer to 3 to 4 foot, so there's going to be some flooding. Look at the winds. Officially, sustained winds at tropical storm force. Minimum right at the bottom line, right there at 39 miles per hour in St. Pete, but gusting to 52. Most areas in Pinellas County, especially central and southern, have seen wind gusts in the 50s. Same thing in Manatee County, 46 mile per hour wind gusts in Clearwater. We saw 50s there earlier, and you got 31 in Tampa. This highest wind here is just moving right up the coast as we go through tonight. So conditions will actually improve as the storm moves out to the north and the east. Tomorrow morning about 2 a.m. is what we're looking at there. There's the center. Most of the weather is to the east and to the north of it, so things will be getting better. Forecast models agree as well. Now look, we're live over on Facebook on 10 Tampa Bay. Jump on over, grab your phone. We'll be going live right now. Okay, I guess we're still... Okay, guys, welcome back to our Facebook stream. I'm 10 Tampa Bay Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins. We've got meteorologist Autumn Robertson. We've got Ryan here. We've got Carolina. She's around here as well, too. We've got a bunch of crews out in the field, and we're going to be tossing to them tonight so you can get an idea of what it looks like out there from the comfort of your dry home. Hopefully it's dry at this particular point. All right, 993 millibars is the pressure. That has come up. That's good. That's what we want, right? We want this thing to weaken a little bit. They're still going with 70 mile per hour winds. I haven't seen any of that sustained on land. That's good too. And now that the center is a little west-northwest of Indian Rocks Beach, it's moving to the north at 12, conditions are improving south of the bay. So Manatee County, Sarasota County. Yeah, still some pretty good rain coming through parts of Hardy, DeSoto, and even Highlands County. But obviously the winds haven't been as high the further you get away from the coastline. Now, this is the heaviest part of the storm right here. I mean, this is the eastern eye wall, and you can see how heavy it is right now in southern Pinellas County, but now that's extending right up into northwestern Hillsborough County. It's up into Land O'Lakes now. Trinity, it's basically knocking on the door now, and this whole thing is just going to move all the way up the coastline. So those winds will continue to be pushing in that direction. Now you can see basically that this rotates through into the north and east, so it kind of spreads out as well. So right now, if you're watching in Fishhawk, the weather's been not too bad. You know, we had a couple of cells go by with some rotation. We're going to keep watching that. But there's more to come. I mean, some of this still has to come through as we go through the next couple of hours. So it's not quite done, but it's more just like what we would typically expect. A rain band with some heavy winds and rain, a little bit of a break, another rain band comes through. Although the highest winds in those rain bands is going to be with this particular section right here. As a matter of fact, Autumn, I see over there, you've got some winds pulled up now of what we're seeing.
Yeah, and actually we have a report of a wind gust, I believe, in St. Pete at around 56, 58 miles per hour. I think that's what was the recent update. So yeah, winds are definitely increasing, but we're seeing sustained winds now over in St. Petersburg, close to 40 miles per hour. Sarasota, a little bit less at around 33. And as you get further south, of course, those winds are starting to decrease. So the best, I guess you can say, impacts at this point are in Pinellas County, heading into Hillsborough, just like Bobby was mentioning, and continuing to head north and then eventually northeast over the next several hours. And the good thing about what we're seeing right here on the radar is that behind this band here, we start to improve a little bit. So this is going to be one of the heaviest bands that we'll see pretty much for the rest of the night. It's moving through pretty slowly. So it's going to stick around, especially around Pinellas County for a little bit. So not really the best situation to get out. There's an aerial flood advisory in effect for Pinellas, but then as you even get further south, there's a little less of the heavier rain. We have flood warnings in effect for Sarasota and Manatee counties just because of all the rain they received earlier from today. So we can continue to see these heavy rain impacts throughout much of the evening, but you can see even though the storm, or at least some of the rain bands from earlier, are moving through quite quickly, we got close to the center now, and now that's kind of parked over us, at least compared to some of the rain bands that we saw earlier. So this heavier rain is going to stick around. Pinellas County is pretty much blank, and I'm actually going to zoom in here. Look at that, blanketed over Pinellas County at this point. That is not a good situation, so just don't go outside, all right? This is not the best weather to even just sit out and view. And then as we get throughout these next several hours, you can see right behind that, it looks to be a little bit nicer. So we have some improvements on our way, but we still have a long night ahead, Bobby.
Thank you absolutely, yeah. It will get better the further north you go. Well, further north it goes throughout the evening hours, but certainly next couple of hours here in northern Pinellas and western Pasco, it's going to be strong. Now, what I've got here for you is the velocity product. So what we're looking at is the rotation out there. We do not have any more tornado watches. We had that expired at 5 o'clock, but we still can get a tornado. We're going to watch it. You see these spots right here? That's in eastern parts of Pasco County, okay? Wesley Chapel's right in here, Dade City here. That area right in there, kind of the eastern end of Starkey Ranch, that is going to be moving off towards Brooksville, Spring Hill area. We want to watch that because there could be some rotation. The tornado threat overall, with the center being out here, you can actually see the center is right about here. The tornado threat is going to be minimized from here southward. All right, so it's basically in that northeastern quadrant. And you can see that. You can even see here out in northeastern Hillsborough County, even out towards the Sonoma-Sassa, right in here, there's some breaks out there. We're going to be watching for it. Again, nothing right now as far as warnings go. We don't have any tornado warnings, anything like that. It's all about the wind right now. You can see 37 mile per hour wind in St. Petersburg, gusting to 49 miles per hour. That's come down, actually, just a little bit. The sustained winds come down to 37. It's not much different, but that's obviously where the core is. And you can see inland locations, Frostproof has winds of about, 13 miles per hour. They ain't got nothing. Yeah, what you got?
Saying it's almost impassable from Park Boulevard Bridge to 150th Avenue and Madeira Beach just due to standing water.
Oh, okay.
And
We've seen lots of water too, Autumn, around Gulfport too. I know that's a little north of what you're talking about, but there's been a lot of reports of flooding.
I think we'll get more reports just from our coastal, some of those coastal cities and towns over the next few hours, simply based on the amount of rain that we're seeing and also the an increasing surge threat throughout the rest of the night.
Yeah, you know what? Let me go ahead. Let me show you some of these rainfall totals that we've had. And actually, I'm going to have to back this out. Maybe it'll take it out 24 hours. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's get in there. So what that report was, it's in Gulf Boulevard, it's in Madeira Beach, basically, and 150th Avenue. Almost impassable is what they're saying at this particular point. And you can see, look at some of these rainfall totals here, and this is just west of downtown St. Petersburg. Almost 6 inches of rainfall, 5 3/4 inches. And that's estimated by the Doppler. Doppler radar does a decent job with those estimations, but not the best, especially when you compare it in tropical rainfall. That's hard. It's the return. It's so much rain that the returns aren't as exact as they would be if it was just a regular type of thunderstorm. There you are, almost 6 inches in the Bel Air Beach area, just east of Madeira Beach, Indian Rocks Beach as well too. Then you get down into Manatee County, western parts of Manatee County, Bradenton. Look at that west of I-75. Look at Bradenton. Guys, almost 6 inches of rain here. Now, we still have some rain to go, but the totals will be slower to climb at this particular point. 5 to 6 inches in many of these areas. And obviously, you see the purples into the blues. That's about 2 to 3 inches. But in fact, we've been measuring some of these locations out here that are about 3 to 4. So I would say 3 to 4 inches for most of those areas in the I-75 corridor. Now, as I showed you, the rest of the rain is actually tapering off here. We have some dry air working its way in here, too. And that's going to help us out by thinning some of this rain out. But the heaviest rain is coming through Pinellas right now. So Trinity, yeah, you're going to get some numbers like that coming up here in just a little bit. Ryan, you are looking, is he around here?
Yeah, I'm over here.
There he is, there he is, shelters. So they had some shelters open, not a whole lot, and there have been some closures for schools.
Yeah. I want to get to the shelters for a quick second here. So for those of you that have evacuated today, or if you're needing to, there's some standing water or what have you. There's many shelters out there obviously opening up in our area, but of course, COVID-19 precautions are going to be in place at those shelters. Pinellas County's EOC, masks are required. They do have voluntary rapid testing, and they will separate people if they do test positive, that way to keep them away and socially distant from others. But again, if you are going to those shelters or need to, make sure you have your own masks, your own PPE to stay as safe as possible. I do want to mention some road closures in Sarasota. According to Sarasota PD, John Ringling Causeway Bridge closed, the bridge to Longboat near Ken Thompson Parkway, John Ringling Boulevard, northbound US 41 diverted onto Main, southbound US 41 diverted eastbound onto Fruitville. So a lot of that area, Bobby D, as we go back out to you here on the wall, we've seen a lot of flooding in that area, which is a big reason for a lot of those road closures there. Yep, exactly. And the rain continues to fall over many of those areas, although it is breaking up the further south you go. Getting a report now from the National Weather Service. Tidal gauges in the St. Pete area are running now 2 to 3 feet above normal. That's the surge. The surge is starting to push into Tampa Bay. I've kind of highlighted some of the winds that are starting to turn a little bit. They're not quite that much out of the southwest. They're generally out of the south and southwest. But the point is, now we're getting into storm surge for the Pinellas beaches, for the Tampa Bay waters as well, too. And, of course, Anna Maria Island. We've had some reports that they've had overwash over the front end of the island on Anna Maria, over the main road there. So that was a couple hours ago. The winds have come down. That happened when this particular wave here went through. That's what some of the highest winds are, and that's why I expect this to continue to rise through at least midnight tonight in many locations. Now, 2 to 3 foot now. It just kind of started, but these are some of the highest winds. Likely to maintain and probably go 3 to 4 by the time we're all said and done with the flooding. So please, please be careful. If you're in an area that is flooding, you need to get to higher ground, of course. The winds are blowing in the 30s, gusts in the 40s to near 50 right now if you were trying to get out and drive anywhere. We're looking at where, Bobby, for flooding. I just wanted to interrupt you for 1 second. Gulfport area, right? We're looking at the coastal beach areas. Are we talking Shore Acres and Snell Isle areas? Like those are where we're talking about. Yep. Be careful of flooding.
So the 2 to 3 foot is the tidal gauge right here in St. Pete. Right? That's inside the bay. So Shore Acres, all these areas, Old Northeast, the ones right up against the water there, those are all hooked to that same body of water, right? At least in that proximity as well, too. So it's 2 to 3 foot above there, and it could go another foot from where it is. And this is going to continue to rise, I think, through about 11, say midnight tonight. After that, it will start to come down a little bit. High tide's coming up, right? High tide's anywhere between 9 o'clock tonight and midnight tonight, depending on where you are. Downtown St. Pete, the gauge is saying generally right around midnight. After that, the tide will try and drop. It's going to be really slow to drop, but the winds pushing the water in will be less. and so it will push less water. So as we go through the night, it will slowly be draining out, but it's going to be a really slow process. The question is, and what we want to know now, is how much of that is going to get in here. And again, we're going 2 to 3 now, and I think it goes 3 to 4, just because we still have some time to blow all this water in there. You can see the center's out here now. So it's actually pretty, getting to be northwest now of Indian Rocks Beach. Good news there. Similar surge is being reported at Port Manatee as well, 2 3/4 feet above level. That's the Manatee County report. This is storm surge. You may have a river gauge near you. That's completely separate. That's associated with the rain, unless we're talking the Hillsborough River, which is going to go up because the water is coming right up into this part of the bay as well too, and pushing up the river. So most of those areas, there's some banks there, at least that you'd be safe for the most part. But still, 3 foot, even up into the Hillsborough River, is going to be flooding some locations. Skyway Bridge is closed. Will likely stay that way. We've seen some of the highest winds now. Will likely stay that way until closer to about sunrise. I think it could be open tomorrow morning. We'll have to watch it. Both the Howard Franklin, the Courtney Campbell, even the Gandy Bridge at this point are still open. Sustained winds just aren't there. They're not up in that 40, 45, 50 mile per hour range where they would shut it down. So that's the good news. You don't need to be out if you don't have to be out tonight, of course. But that is the case. The bridges are open as we go. Now, this is the dry air and training here. You see how the rains are, they're starting to fill in a little bit, and they will, but nothing like what we were seeing earlier. So things are going to get better. Still, right, Autumn was saying, it's blanketed right over Pinellas County. Let's talk that storm surge. Well, first, let me show you some of the numbers here. 3 to 5 footers, 3 to 5 foot surge, I should say. That's what the Hurricane Center is going with. And you see how they went from Sarasota all the way up to Anclote Key, basically, Anclote River, in Tarpon Springs. This area is starting to come down a little bit here in southern Sarasota just because the winds are coming down. But now we're just starting to see it in here. There will be a good 2 to 4 foot up here in parts of Pasco and Hernando County, Weeki Wachee area. Now, a lot of that area is really low, but a lot of the area is kind of undeveloped because of that threat. It floods with a pretty good wind. You get up towards Crystal River, and 2 to 4 feet can do some damage in some places in Crystal River. And I do expect that forecast to hold. The winds will be lower if you're watching from Hernando, or especially from Crystal River. But because the center will go in probably just to your north, you're going to have some pretty good winds coming around the bottom side of that. And so 2 to 4, to me, actually, at this point, seems like a pretty good forecast. Here is the Hurricane Center forecast that they give us here. Now, this goes out through 11 o'clock. Those high winds that are in Pinellas now are exiting. They're moving, well, they've already been moving into Pasco, but you can see it's now into Pasco, up into Hernando, and by 11 o'clock getting closer to Citrus County. Then as we go through the overnight hours into 3 a.m., look at the tropical storm force winds really dropping off. Manatee, Sarasota County, most of Hillsborough, most of Pinellas, still an onshore wind, but obviously dropping quite a bit. And then as we get towards sunrise tomorrow morning, look, that's 7 a.m. We're done. By the time you wake up, if you get up around 7 a.m., we will be done with tropical storm warnings at least. But we're still going to have some wind, and we're actually going to have some rain bands trailing on the southeast side of that, as I was showing you from earlier. All right, now I want to take you back out and show you this area here in western Polk County. We haven't talked a lot about Polk County except for the chance for some tornadoes, and that's what I want to talk about now. There is still a small chance there right along that Hillsborough County border and Lakeland. I don't see a whole lot left over at this particular point. So you see it's just light rain. That's fine. No issues there. The eastern side of this, out from Fishhawk to Brandon, up to the fairgrounds, all the way up to Dade City and Wesley Chapel, that right now I don't see much in the way of spin-ups, anything like that that we need to be concerned about. But we definitely have to watch it. I mean, you see this here. Some of those spots, even some of these here, will have to be watched. I would lean more towards this area here just because that's in some of the heavier downpours. But good news, no warnings at this particular point. Guys, I tell you, what a storm this has been.
I think we have Autumn over here too. We want to bring her in for a second. Autumn, what are you seeing out here?
Yeah, just bringing you back to this view of the radar and also the winds here, seeing gusts in St. Pete close to 50 miles per hour. But you can see that band of rain that is bringing that significant rain and potentially even some flooding concerns. The Pinellas is continuing to push more so to the northeast. So as that moves, and of course the center is right here, we'll still see those gusty, breezy winds throughout the night. But as Bobby was mentioning, as this continues to move further north, we'll start to see less impacts with wind and of course with the rain. But I did want to show you guys over in St. Pete, it's still quite gusty out there, so definitely not the best conditions to drive. But we are starting to see a little bit of some potentially improvement of the weather. So you can see some drier spots right here that's going to head into the St. Pete coast over the next half hour or so. So that's nice, but as you go further out, back out into the Gulf, there's still a few bands of rain, not nearly as heavy as what we're currently seeing right now. So we're not going to be completely dry throughout the evening, but this band of rain looks to be the worst that we're going to see for the rest of the night as it continues to move further north. So still very heavy rain, pretty much blanketing much of Pinellas County. I know Bobby just talked about Polk, not too much going on in our inland counties, so definitely getting a break. This is really more so of a coastal storm here, at least for our coastal counties, but still that wind is going to continue to be a major impact tonight, even as the rain starts to improve. And even as we head into the start of Thursday, even though those tropical storm force winds will still well be to the north of us, it looks like at that point, it'll still be a breezy day. So just keep that in mind, but it will feel a little bit more pleasant.
Those are flood warnings. Yeah.
Okay. Flood
If
warnings.
you've got a NOAA array there, you're going to be hearing those things going off the next several days because of all the rain. But
Yep.
Autumn, while I got your attention here, Shore Acres, St. Pete, 62nd Avenue, flooded between 4th Street and 9th Street.
All right.
So, yeah. That's
Expected.
Pretty popular area where for a lot of car traffic there.
Yep.
So yeah, this is not the best. If you have to get somewhere, then that's something different. But if you just want to go out, this is not really the night to do so. We really don't need anyone else getting caught in the rain, the flooding. That will just lead to significant traffic concerns and, of course, dangerous for any personal driver out there. So here, Carolina, what's going on your end?
Yeah, Autumn, thank you. I just want to walk through some of the damage that we're seeing in the area. This is some damage that we saw from the early bands of Eta, a roof that collapsed in Venice. It blew off of a manufactured home. Luckily, there was nobody inside. But you see that right there, that dumpster? They were really clever about this. They were able to secure that damage to make sure that it did not cause more damage throughout the night, putting that dumpster there on top of the roof there. And that's the Public Works Department that was able to get that secure there for the area so that we wouldn't see any more damage throughout the night. Look, we have made this really, really easy for you to go ahead and continue tracking this throughout the night. All you have to do is text the word tropics to the number you see right there on your screen. We will send you a link to our hurricane headquarters. There's really good information there just to make sure that you're caught up on what we're seeing throughout the night. Let's go ahead and send it back to Bobby.
All right, guys, so I want to show you a little bit bigger picture now here of the of the wind. And you can see where the center is a little bit further offshore. I think the center is actually a little bit closer than what this wind thing is showing, but you can actually see where the highest wind is on the east side and it's brushing right up against us. Still a good feed from the south and the east on the east side, so that brings in moisture. The back side has this northerly wind, and there's all kinds of dry air in here. But it's now getting even drier, and so finally more of this is starting to wrap around, and that's one of the reasons why we're ending up seeing this starting to weaken just a little bit. To be honest with you, I'm still shocked that they got this at 70-mile-per-hour winds because it's just really starting to fall apart. If this convection wasn't here right around the center, it wouldn't be that high, but that's what's happened. It's just started flaring up as it got closer to the coast today. And so that's going to continue off the north and west. All this yellow that you see here, that is all, and let me zoom this out too, that is all dry air pushing in. And in fact, I guess I'll go ahead and tell you about that. You see this here? This is a cold front developing.
Oh, that's good news.
Not this one, but we're going to get one Monday.
Okay.
And temps are going down to the 70s, dew points are dropping. You're going to love it. And we're going to enjoy it after we get all this tropical moisture. I got up the other day and the sliding glass windows were fogged up, and I knew that we got tropical air in place.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see it extending all the way up the East Coast. A lot of folks on our Facebook Lives have been asking, you know, hey, what's it going to be like in this state and that state? Will we get rain from it? You know, you've got the Masters in Augusta. So there is some weather going through there right now. The frontal boundary is coming here. It's right about in here, so it's going to be able to pick it up. I think they'll be okay, especially on Friday, but tomorrow they may have to deal with a little bit of rain. Most of the rain from this storm, from Eta, will go just to the, it's going to be close, just to the southeast of southeastern Georgia there where the Masters is. So that's pretty good news for them, but they're going to have to deal with at least a little bit of rain there. The shear is going to start picking this thing up and pushing it out. That helps keep it going because the concern was, well, what does it just stop and stall right over us? Because remember, the models were bringing it up here and then kind of slowing it down and then maybe coming up and around. But now it's just at the point where it's going to get picked up. So that's going to help it get it out of here. 18-mile-per-hour winds in Tampa, gusting to 31. The airport has been shut down. Likely, probably tomorrow morning that they open that back up. Same thing with the Skyway Bridge at this particular point. And then if you look outside right now at the beach, I mean, this is the Wyndham Grand. What we're trying to see, I mean, fortunately, we still have power here on Pier 60. We want to see how far this whitewater comes up right here because the next couple of hours, that's going to come up. That's going to come up further than what it is right now. You can see the sidewalk is well up here. 3 to 4 feet can get close to getting up there. There's actually quite a bit of sand there, you'd be surprised, but 3 to 4 feet is certainly going to come up higher than what you're normally used to seeing it there out at the beach. Right now, temperatures in the mid-70s, dew points in the mid-70s, 100% humidity, you expect that, right? South wind at 32 miles per hour, but that's been changed. That's generally over at St. Pete, so you got the highest winds right there coming in off the water. I mean, right now, even a south wind, but especially a south-southeast winds coming in off the water. Let's go through the forecast model again, just updated here. There you are. Look at that. The heaviest weather coming through right now as we speak. Let's go out. Let's 8:30. Let's go out to about 11 o'clock here. You can see that's now moving into Pasco County. Pinellas by 11 o'clock looking much better, but we still have the surge issue through midnight here, okay? And then the heaviest wind and rain is going to be up into still parts of north central Hillsborough, but certainly Land O'Lakes, Wesley Chapel, Dade City, Zephyr Hills, up to Spring Hill, up to Brooksville. Excuse me, even wrapping around and up into Hudson, okay, and then up into Weeki Wachee area. This is 11:30. So that heavy rain that's coming through right now in Pinellas County, causing flooding, causing power outages, all of that is going to do the same thing in Pasco County and Hernando County between now and say 11:30, and then Hernando County, it's already there at 11:30, but it's going to last through about 1 in the morning. That's 2 in the morning, getting better for Pasco, certainly better for Hillsborough and Pinellas. Still some bands here. You see that? Still some of that. That's what they're dealing with in Sarasota now. That's not that bad, though, and the wind is lower, but the highest winds are still going to be up here. That's about 2 in the morning. Center is now west of Pasco, and then we go about sunrise tomorrow morning, just before sunrise. Broader center, it's weakening altogether. You can see it, if the center was here, right? See it's going in just north of Citrus County. But I think if that happens, those winds are going to be coming down quite a bit, and so the storm surge is about 2 to 4 feet. I wouldn't go much higher than that in any other kind of forecast. Southwest winds at 19 miles per hour tomorrow morning in Tampa. All right, so still a little bit of a breeze. Still these rain bands extending. And remember, these things are the ones that can train, and we'll have to watch for that. And I think that'll be from Manatee and especially areas inland. See that? Through Polk County, through Highlands County, and Hardy and DeSoto. That's tomorrow morning around 11:30 in the morning. Winds out of the west-northwest. Now, yeah, that's an onshore wind, and you're thinking, hey, it's blowing water this way for surge, but the wind's coming way down. So surge will not be an issue. In fact, surge will be coming down right around 3 in the morning or so. It just depends on exactly where you are. And then that takes us out through Thursday evening, looking really good. I've got some rain, some wind graphs on here.
Yeah, we've seen the wind gusts really picking up too, Bobby, especially you mentioned Pinellas County. St. Pete's seen a lot of those wind gusts.
Yeah, you can hear it out. And St. Pete's been seeing them all in the 50s and some close to 60 mile per hour readings. This is the next 12 hours. Here we are now, 9 o'clock. Well, not quite 9 o'clock, right? 8:30. Look at these sustained winds, guys. And this is for Tampa. It's higher right at the immediate coast. But notice the change, 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. Winds really dropping off. That's what you're going to notice by the time you wake up. So you go to bed, it'll be windy. You'll be hearing lots of noises out there. By the time you wake up, it's not going to be as bad. And I still have the rain chances. This is 3 a.m. up to 90%. That's some of those trails coming through. But you notice we actually warm up because such heavy rain right now, it's cooled our temperatures down. And then by the time we get a little bit of a break in the rain, the temps will come up just a little bit. This is tomorrow, 9 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m. Yeah, wind's going down. And notice the direction, too. Still out of the southwest in the morning, but coming more out of the west as we go through the afternoon as it comes down. None of this is an issue for storm surge. That's an afternoon sea breeze in some locations. So that's what it looks like for rain tomorrow as well, too. Highest chance is going to be in the morning, drying out as we get towards the afternoon. A lot of those extra rain bands, those trailing bands, if you will, We're going to push south and east of Tampa, and of course that's what this particular forecast is for. Here's a 7-day forecast. I didn't really even do much work on this. Mid 80s for the weekend. Stays warm, stays humid, but look at Tuesday. Yeah, Wednesday's I got to change that. But front comes through Monday. There'll be a couple showers with it, not a big deal. 70s, 60s in the morning, and some 50s on Tuesday morning, and then a very similar setup as we get into Wednesday. I'll adjust those numbers for you. Ryan?
Well, Bobby, we talked about a lot of the rising waters around the area. We do want to get to a 10 news alert right now. If you are just joining us, we do want to update you. We're still getting word about possible damage and also what has been happening around our area, but we do know that rescue crews have been working to what appears to be an electrocution at a home in Bradenton Beach down in our southern counties. First responders, they cut the power to that home. They found a man inside dead after he had been electrocuted. Investigators tell us there was standing water inside of that home. There's no other information we have at this time. But again, we tell you, we've seen flooding. I showed you the tweet from Sarasota PD. We're seeing a lot of rising waters. Bobby was just talking about a lot of the flooding in Pinellas County. You got to be very careful, guys, especially with electricity around when we have storms like this and rising floodwaters as well.
Yeah, and Ryan, we don't know much about what happened there, but it's a very good reminder, not to go outside. It's, you get tempted to go out, but again, we don't know much about that case, but again,
correct.
Make sure you stay in your home. So earlier this afternoon, Tampa International Airport as well as Sarasota Bradenton Airport suspended all operations. If you did have a flight, you're going to want to make sure that you check in with the airline to see how that's going to be resolved. Now, earlier today, HART suspended all services as well as PSTA. There are school closures that we want to talk about with so many transitioning to online learning for the rest of the week. Now, you can find a full list of that right now. I know as a parent, it's really important to know what's going to happen for the rest of the week. So go to 10tampabay.com. Now, as of now, Pinellas, Polk, Citrus, Hernando, and Pasco County schools will be closed tomorrow. Sarasota County says it will open on time tomorrow. We learned that around 7:30 tonight. Now, Manatee and Hillsborough County will be closed both tomorrow as well as Friday. There are also several universities that have canceled classes for tomorrow as well. Again, you can find that information at 10tampabay.com. And again, we've made it really easy for you to track the tropics from your home. All you need to do is text the word tropics to 727-577-8522, and that will give you a link to our hurricane headquarters. Our team working really, really hard. We've got Bobby Deskins, Autumn Robertson, Natalie Ferrari, Grant Gilmore in the morning, as well as Rick Kirby, all of them working right now to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information when it comes to the tropics. I'm going to go over, I think.
You know what, if we can have a chance here, are we able to give some updates on power outages? I want to know if we could potentially do that, guys. If we're able to swing the camera over here to the touchscreen for a second, I can give you guys an idea of what we're looking at from a power outage perspective.
Yeah, but you could probably start talking about it while we're adjusting some cameras.
All right, so let's just take a look at what we've got here for Duke Energy, because we've seen this number growing, especially throughout the last hour. We're up to about 11,000 without power now in the Pinellas County area, going all the way from South Pinellas up to Tarpon Springs. The majority of this that we're seeing is where Bobby's talked about a lot of that flooding. Down here in South St. Pete, right near the Albert Whitted Airport, just south of that, and then over towards, over towards the Reddington Beach, Indian Shores area. So this is where we're seeing a lot of these power outages. I'll kind of zoom in for you guys here. We're trying to get a spokesperson on from FP&L.
We do. We'll have them ready for you. Finish up what you're doing, and then I'll just go ahead and grab them.
So let me show you right now. This is what we're looking at right now from the updated numbers from FP&L before we get our friend on here. So down here in Sarasota County, about 4,700 people are without power here down in Sarasota County, and then 6,350 in Manatee. Take a look over in Hardy. We've got no issues with power outages there, about 10 customers in DeSoto County. But mainly down there, Carolina, in Sarasota and Manatee counties, we're seeing a lot of those outages. A lot of those storms came through just a little bit ago.
Yeah, and Brian, right now joining us on the phone is Bill Orlov from Florida Power and Light. Bill, I know that you've had a really busy evening. You're going to have a busy overnight as well. Ryan Bass and Carolina Lead here on the phone with you. First of all, tell me about the outages. What kind of outages do you have right now in the area?
Well, good evening. So as you aptly described, we are seeing about 11,000 outages in the Sarasota Manatee area, which is where a lot of our customers are in your viewing area. That's actually about 2% of the total customer base. So we will be continuing from tonight through the night into tomorrow morning, restoring power safely and as quickly as possible. We have a workforce of 9,000 that are set up in 9 staging sites, and they're going to work through the storm so long as it's safe to do so. And when I say that, the wind speeds have to be below 35 miles an hour so they can work between feeder bands to get the lights back on.
All right. So just real quick, what is causing the outages? Is this like down trees? Is it because of water damage? What is causing the outages from what you can tell?
So I can tell you from the first part of Eta, which affected southeast Florida on the east coast earlier this week, we're seeing the same thing on the west coast as well. The winds are picking up, the ground is saturated from the rain, and it doesn't take much for the trees and other vegetation and debris to go into our lines. So that is what we're seeing, and that is normally what we see in a storm like this. It's a wind-driven storm, is that trees and vegetation and other debris are going into our lines and equipment, but we are committed to getting the lights back on safely and as quickly as possible.
Bill, I want to thank you for what you and your team are doing, certainly providing power and helping to turn the lights on for so many that need it here. I do want to ask you quickly, for those customers in the Sarasota and Manatee areas that maybe are without power right now, what can they do? How can they go about reporting an outage and trying to get their power turned back on as quickly as possible?
Well, actually, with all of the smart devices that we have on the grid and more than 5 million smart meters on our system, we know where the outages are, so customers don't need to reach out to us. What they can do is download our FPL app onto their phone, and they can see the status of their outage and when their power will be restored. It's a great source of information for our customers.
And just one more follow-up from me, Bill. As far as that outage fix, I know you mentioned it's based on wind speeds and getting crews out there as quick as possible. What's your average time from when power goes out to when you could potentially restore it in a storm like this? What's usually your average service time?
It's difficult to say that at this point. Usually that's something we're able to do an analysis after the storm has passed. But what I can tell you is our commitment is to get the lights back on safely and as quickly as possible. It's really a matter of the resources that we have, the personnel in the field, and working throughout the feeder bands. Also, one thing I didn't add is we have these smart switch devices and other devices on the grid that actually we saw in the first part of Eta when it hit southeast Florida. It was able to prevent thousands of outages so that customers may not even experience an outage, or the outage time is reduced because of these devices. We don't even sometimes need to roll a truck. So sometimes the power is being restored without our crews even getting into the thick of things, into the weather.
That's certainly good to hear as far as from a safety perspective too. Bill, we thank you so much for coming on here and joining us here on 10 Tampa Bay. Good luck to you and your team. Please stay safe. And again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, let's get over to Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins now with an update on what we're seeing now. And you mentioned, Bobby, this is some of the strongest part of the storm that's coming through Pinellas and Hillsborough counties now.
Pinellas and Northwest Hillsborough right now. It's exactly what we're seeing now. It's a great sidebar here that we just talked to him about all those power outages. So what's going to happen, you're going to lose power, right? If you have a generator, please make sure you are using it correctly. And I'm not trying to say that to be offensive at all, but we don't want those where we can end up getting carbon monoxide issues, right? You don't want it inside the house, obviously. You want it outside, covered if you can, out on the lanai, out on a porch, something like that. But you don't want the window open right there too, because you can get some of that gas to come in as well too. Please, please, please be careful. You can get electrocuted from a generator, right? It's generating enough electricity to power the items in your house. It can electrocute you as well too. If you have questions, a lot of times people will come, especially they'll move to the state, right? They'll come down here and they'll buy a generator and they'll keep it in the box and may not even use it. But if that is the case and you're not exactly sure, call a neighbor, call a friend and ask just to be on the south side, on the smart side, because basically what we're looking at is the chance for that to cause carbon monoxide issues in your house. And so we don't want that to happen, okay? We want everybody to be very, very safe. We've had an electrocution now down in Manatee County already. We don't want that to be an issue throughout the rest of the evening hours. Now, power, as he was saying, we don't know how long it could be out in particular areas, whatever it happens to be, the cause for that particular outage. But that's why I just wanted to make sure everybody knows, please, please be careful with that. And again, remember the gasoline aspect to it as well, too. You want to make sure that thing is kept up away from the kids. Now, the breaks are starting to occur in Pinellas County. So we're starting to finally here see a little bit in the way of breaks. If you see on the southern part of the beach, Madeira Beach, down St. Pete Beach, a little bit of a break there. So the highest winds starting to go away. The heaviest rainfall starting to go away. But that's obviously there's more to that where we came from. If I zoom this out a little bit, you're going to be able to see how we've got some of those rain bands extending back out towards the south and the west. And again, they will continue to form as we get going into the evening hours. Now, Pasco County just now starting to see some of the heaviest rainfall. It will get heavier and windier over the next 2 hours. And then about, what time we got here? It's about 8:30, about 9, 10:30, 11 o'clock. Things will start to slow down just a little bit, Ryan.
And we'll start to see some of the effects up in our northern counties, too, when you get towards Hernando. I know you mentioned Citrus County is where that center of the storm could potentially go over land there about 3 in the morning. I do want to welcome in our Emerald Morrow now, who is in Brooksville for us. And Emerald, as Bobby was just talking about, really the center of this, the worst of it right now is in the Pinellas and Hillsborough counties, but they can expect to see some of it up there towards where you are in just a little bit from now. What are you seeing up there in Brooksville?
Well, Ryan, as you can see right now, things are not bad at all. We're not getting any rain. The wind was picking up just a little bit a few moments ago. I wish I could show you guys what I'm seeing right now, which is my photographer right now, Dennis Hollingsworth. He's holding the light right now because of the wind. But, you know, not so bad. Definitely not anything like what you guys are seeing in some of the other areas. Right now, we are here at a shelter that's been opened in this area. There are voluntary evacuations right now. Nobody is being evacuated in a mandatory way right now. And actually the shelter is empty. When we checked in a little while ago, there weren't very many people in here at all. Maybe there might be a few more. We see a few more cars out here, but not a lot of activity right now. I do want to mention though that sandbags are available at Linda Peterson Park, and that's at 6300 Shoreline Boulevard. And I am told that this is going to be open until conditions begin to deteriorate. This is a self-service location, so it might be a good idea if you haven't gotten those sandbags, if you haven't gotten any of those things taken care of, to go ahead and make sure you get that done, because this is going to be a situation where we do start to see those conditions begin to deteriorate pretty quickly. And I was told not too long ago that the storm was about 55 miles away, so not a lot of time to prepare. So again, as I said, not much going on out here. I wish I did have a little bit more to report, but nothing too exciting at this time. But you know, I just think right now people are just hoping for the best, hoping that things don't get too bad to the point where they're seeing so much damage that it becomes unbearable for them. And at this time, I just think that, again, people are just trying to do their best to prepare. So not much at this time, but I think if you guys check in with me a little bit later, that I might have a little bit more to share with you guys.
Well, you know, Emerald, in reporting, it's good to see both, right? When you see some damage, but then you see the parts of our area that are okay, right? That tells you where things are looking a little bit better at that time. All right, so we made it really easy for you to go ahead and get the latest on the tropics. Go ahead and text the word tropics right there to the number there on your screen. We will send you a link with the information that you need to know. That's all coming from our hurricane headquarters. Now let's go ahead and check back in with Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins for the latest.
Getting some data in from Recon. Vortex messages came in, and we've seen about 50-mile-per-hour winds right out here just north and east of the center. The center, by the way, is just offshore. As a matter of fact, you can see now, I've kind of drove, it's tough to see, but it's about 32 miles or 33 miles or so off the coast now of, say, Indian Rocks, almost Clearwater Beach, just about the same. This will continue to move off towards the north. We're finally starting to see some breaks the further south you go. I know you see rain there, but that is not exactly heavy rain. And more than anything else, the wind has come down in those rain bands that are going through Sarasota
Bobby,
County
I don't know
right
if your screen went out or something, but I think we lost power for a second,
had
but we have a
just had
generator.
a little power out.
I didn't know if yours adjusted,
we're
just so you know what's going on.
Thank you
Oh,
very
okay.
much. Yeah, we're full screen. We're full screen right now.
Got it.
But you can see the layers that are coming through, and I say that because it's just multiple bands, right? You can see them here. This is pretty much one of the inner bands going around the eye wall there, and there's the others that are just kind of continuing to move in, and that's what we'll have for the rest of the night. The one issue is you just don't have as much wind in that band that's coming in for Sarasota. You still certainly have a flooding issue in those areas. That is not going to go away for a couple of hours. And guys, what you see in Sarasota basically has to come through Bradenton and St. Pete. So we are well removed now from the rain ending. That's going to be happening gradually as we go through the overnight hours tonight, but certainly not going to be anytime soon. We'll have some breaks, of course, like what we've been seeing. But still some training is going to be happening later tonight. So Pinellas, finally a little bit of a break. Look what's happening in northern Pinellas right now, from Clearwater up to Dunedin, Safety Harbor, Oldsmar, West Chase, get up towards Keystone area and Tarpon Springs, and certainly Palm Harbor, seeing some heavy rain. The breaks are just offshore. This is the velocity product. I'm seeing a couple little areas that we need to watch, but for the most part, it looks like everything's behaving. We're going to watch this little area right here in the Land O'Lakes area, but I think that'll be okay. So that's actually good news. Again, no tornado watches or obviously no tornado warnings at this particular point either. So the velocity product is looking pretty good. Local winds, here we go. This is the latest reports that we're getting in. I really like to look at that shading that you see there in Pinellas County that goes over into Manatee County as well. That's kind of the core of the highest wind, and that's what's drifting off towards the north. Look at Clearwater now. Just about 39-mile-per-hour wind sustained. That would be tropical storm force and gusting now into the 50s. Rainfall. Largo is reporting about 3.6 inches of rainfall. Most areas in Pinellas County are anywhere from 3 to 4, almost 5 inches now in rainfall at this particular point. Just a lot of that, a couple inches at least just within the last couple of hours because of the heavy rain that has come through. Notice the winds in Lakeland and Frostproof. Yeah, they're looking pretty good. Not too much of an issue, but certainly some gusts as they go through. The winds in Zephyr Hills, Brooksville, Crystal River will all be increasing over the next couple of hours as we go through the evening hours and overnight tonight, although it will be coming back down as we get into sunrise by tomorrow morning. Now, with this track, it will continue to move out and away, and that's good news. But we're now getting to that part where we're going to have to start dealing with the storm surge. We're seeing the guides now telling us about 2 to 3, I should say, feet above normal in the inside part of the bay. So we're talking eastern parts of Pinellas County. Obviously, St. Pete is where that gauge is, and it's running 2 to 3 feet above normal. That is the surge starting to come in, and that will continue to push into the bay as we go through the evening hours tonight. I'm thinking it's really not going to be until after about midnight before that starts to come down just a little bit, just because we still have, look, you see some breaks in the rain, but that's not breaks in the wind, okay? And in fact, anything, the way that rain band is shaped, it's telling you which way that wind direction is going. And you get the idea, it's starting now to blow water up into the bay and up onto the beaches of Pinellas County. Anna Maria's been dealing with it for a while now. It's really starting to get impressive here at the beach. Autumn, you've been looking at this spin here now. What's your thought about how far this is going to go before it makes landfall? I mean, is it going to get up the Crystal River, I think?
I mean, man, it's close. It's really close to the coast at this point. I think it's going to continue on this little diagonal track here. It'll land somewhere around the Nature Coast, it looks like. But, the Nature Coast hasn't even seen much of anything today. I mean, they got a bit of rain a little earlier, but most of the rain, the wind impacts have really been around the immediate Tampa Bay area. And the rain, especially, you can see how much has accumulated over the past 24 hours here. We actually have flood warnings in effect for Hillsborough County now, Pasco County included, and then also Pinellas and Manatee County is going out of effect close to midnight tonight. So that's when we could potentially see some of that rain start to quiet down just a little bit. But you can see rainfall estimates just over the past 24 hours. Now there's a rogue one down here close to Gulfport, close to 9 inches. That's the past 24 hours. So not mainly accumulated with this recent rain band that passed through. But you can see further north here, mostly in Pinellas County over the past day or so, received near 6 inches of rain.
We're
starting to see some breaks in the rain.
Might have
I
lost
may have
your
lost you,
mic
Autumn.
here,
Let me.
Autumn.
Time for a battery change. I
Yeah, it
think.
might be a battery. You've been on for a long time
We're
now.
working too hard today.
Working so hard. Yeah, I'm going to change my battery, Bobby.
Yeah,
I'll
we're gonna change
go
the
ahead
battery.
and take it from here. Those, I mean, that's almost 9 inches of rainfall in South Pinellas. That is a lot of rain. Now, that's draining off, but it's going to take time to drain off, and the water level's coming up. So we're going to see some flooding. So let's get outside now to Madison. Carolina, do you know where she's at?
Yeah, she's at Hudson Beach, just up the coast here. Ryan Bass, Carolina Lead here with you, with Bobby and also Autumn here. Madison Allworth joins us from Hudson Beach now, just up the coast. And I know we were talking about a lot of the coastal areas in Pinellas County flooding. Madison, up there towards Hudson Beach, I see the wind picking up and the rain certainly as well as those outer bands hit you. What are you experiencing out there?
Yes, Ryan, it is definitely picking up. So we are part of that Nature Coast area up here. So during the day, it hasn't been so bad. But as you very much just saw, the conditions are just getting worse here. The wind is picking up, the rain is picking up, and it's going to get worse as the night goes on. We've been here, like I said, since this afternoon. We were able to stop by a sandbag location. So we're going to show you some of that video there. Families came to pick up that sand, make sure they protected their homes, because this is an area that does have a lot of low-lying, homes and residential areas. We drove through some of those earlier today. We already started to see some of that water accumulate, so people were preparing. That location is technically open 24 hours. That was Veterans Memorial Park. It's still open, but we are getting close to that danger zone where you do not want to be out in the streets, and that's because Eta is just heading towards us now. And some bad news for this area, they're going to see high tide around 10:10 p.m. here at Hudson Beach, and the storm is going to be hitting this, from the last I saw, around 11 p.m. So it's going to be a lot of things converging at the same time. This pavilion that I'm in right now, we were told by some locals earlier today that this area frequently floods, so we could be seeing storms coming over the wall over this way and coming up and flooding this entire picnic area. For now, it's still sort of dry. You can see the wind is whipping in, the rain is coming in, and behind me, you can just see that grass and those trees moving. So Tropical Storm Eta definitely coming this way. The worst has not yet been seen, but it's already looking pretty bad, guys.
All right, Madison, thank you so much for that. We're doing a little bit of a mic check here and redoing the batteries because of, we've been going wall to wall doing coverage here for several hours now. I will say, Ryan and Bobby, as well as Autumn, I've been kind of going over Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and so forth and seeing people posting that the flooding that they're seeing. In particular, some of the people I know on St. Pete Beach who are showing videos of the water that has gone over their seawalls, and they pointed out, rightly so, that high tide's not till about 9:39.
Yeah, a lot of that storm surge Bobby was talking about, right? I mean, Bobby had talked about earlier about 4 feet potentially, but 3 to 5 is what the National Weather Service had estimated. You're very familiar with that coastal area right there out there by St. Pete Beach, Carolina, and that's an area, obviously, when you get those storms, that's susceptible to a lot of that flooding.
And then when you think of certain areas like the Don Cesar neighborhood and some of those areas, and you can talk about Madeira Beach and other areas as well, where they're prone to flooding. So the people that live there are well aware of when you see a storm, when it's coming your way, even days out, they start preparing, they start getting their sandbags because they know even when it's a smaller storm, not that this is a smaller storm, but what they need to do in order to prepare for whatever damage is coming that way. Now, a lot of these people did right that they had prepared, they did everything, they tucked everything away, but now that they're seeing some of the issues they're having right now are doing even more to get things out of the way, moving kayaks, moving tables, so forth, because the water is creeping up much closer to their homes than they expected.
And we've heard about areas in Gulfport too, where a lot of those businesses had gotten those sandbags and put them in front of the, their businesses, but the water's starting to rise. There's still more flooding that's happening in that area. I think we have Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins back with us now. He's all mic'd up, recharged, ready to go.
Yeah,
you got a Coca-Cola, you got some water, maybe a
caffeine
snack.
and some fresh batteries. It's Energizer Bunny, ready to go. So unfortunately, I hate to hear you getting videos like that.
I am, especially the high tide. That's what everyone's pointing out when they're posting the videos. They're like, it looks bad now, but we're still concerned.
Look, a hard offshore wind like we had in Irma can fight high tide.
Right.
None of this is going to fight high tide. In fact, it's going to add on top of it, unfortunately. And so again, I'm still thinking almost 9 o'clock now, especially for Pinellas County, we still have another good hour of the water trying to come up a little bit, because you see these winds here, they still have to come up the coast. Okay, and they will start to lessen the further south you go, the highest winds are going to be right in here, and that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. Look, the wind out here is blowing. It's literally still pushing water here, right? It's got to go from where it is here in that direction because of where the wind is. And so that's just slowly pushing all that water up onto the coast. Real high winds on the backside, and this is what I'm saying initially, the peak for surge is going to be from right now through about midnight for Pinellas. And that includes the Bay, Hillsborough as well too. The next 3 hours will be the peak, and then things will start to come down because it's simply just pulling away from us at that particular point. There's a look at 10 o'clock. Highest winds in the orange here. You can see moving into Pasco and Hernando County, and then eventually moving further off to the north and east, but still more of an onshore flow here. Okay, so that's going to be the issue. If you can get those things now, get them. I'll go back to the radar and show you here real fast in the Pinellas County area because there will be some breaks in the rain that might make it at least a little bit easier to get out there. This is 3 in the morning, still onshore winds, but you notice the yellow out of here. That means lighter onshore winds here because it would be a little bit heavier right there. That will help that water come down. The tide will be dropping there as well. All right, back over to full here. Let me take you over to the radar because if you're trying to make any plans right now to get outside and clean up real fast, keep things from floating away. There are some breaks in the rain. It's not a lot, but there are going to be some breaks, especially in southern Pinellas County right now. You can see
that's a relief for a lot of those flood areas.
Well, it's not taking the water away. It's just not pouring any more water on top of it right now.
But it's a little bit of a break to maybe pick up something you may have seen.
To get outside and you're not just running around in the rain more than anything else.
Yeah.
The flooding problem now with storm surge is not coming from the sky. It's coming from the ground up. It's coming from the water up. That's storm surge. Rain exacerbates that problem, right? And we've had almost 9 inches rainfall in parts of Pinellas. So that's standing. It's trying to fall off. It's trying to drain out into the bay, into the Gulf. It's going to have a hard time doing it. So especially like Old Northeast and Shore Acres, those areas, that water's not coming down until well after midnight.
Yeah.
Because we've just had so much rain that it would flood us anyways if we had this in the afternoon, right? Plus, now you've got water coming up, so there is just simply nowhere for that water to go. Winds still up there. Let me try if I can find the wind map here for you. They're coming down a little bit, but it's still a slow go of that as we go through the next several hours. The bigger picture, if we just kind of look at the whole DMA here, you can see the whole state, really, at least the peninsula, showing winds highest right where we are, of course, but elsewhere in the state, it's not all that bad. Down south in Sarasota, things have gotten a lot better. Sustained winds now generally in the 20s, and that's a big improvement. We did have tropical storm force winds sustained basically in Sarasota and Manatee for today. Manatee for sure. We had it in St. Pete for sure as well too. The bigger picture of the winds, you can see the center finally starting to move north of Manatee and Sarasota County. Still quite a bit of wind. You don't want to see that purple there. That is a bad spot to have that because that is where the winds are blowing onshore. And that has been kind of hugging that position for a while, even though the center, that was actually a little just due east and maybe even a little northeast of the center earlier. And now it's just still sitting right there. This thing's kind of expanding as it's starting to weaken just a little bit.
And I was going to ask you that too, Bobby. Have we seen the storm weaken? Because just before we started the show, I think it just had dropped from a hurricane to a tropical storm. Have we seen it weaken as we've gone throughout the night?
Not a whole lot. I mean, look, this is the 7 p.m. update. We'll get another one here in just about an hour. And they're still going with 70-mile-per-hour winds. Now, the recon's out there, and as I mentioned, that vortex message they sent, that showed about 50, 55-mile-per-hour winds or so. But that's what they've been kind of measuring through most of the time out there today. But there is some spots in there that are up near 70, and that's why it's still set at 70 miles per hour. 10 o'clock, we get a full update on the track that you're seeing here, and of course, an update on the data. It should start turning more to the north-northeast by that time. The wind should be coming down a little bit. You can see it's forecast to be, by early tomorrow morning, 65-mile-per-hour wind. So it's not coming down a lot by that time if that forecast is holding.
Bobby, the purple area you were showing us just before this, is that related to what you were talking about about an hour ago about the change in water temperature south of us? Is that what's creating it, or is that totally different from what you were describing earlier?
I think what's happening in this case is the storm is starting to expand a little bit. When they start to weaken, when they hit land, the overall wind comes down, but the wind field will spread out.
Okay.
And because that wind field in that position is over the water, it's easy to blow, right? There's nothing really knocking it down. So it's going to kind of enhance that wind, or if not enhance it, at least keep it up for some time. And this is automated data that plots this.
Yeah.
I don't think that purple area is that large of an area of high winds.
I
out
gotcha.
there, right.
Okay.
That's a buoy out there that automatically, it does get a high reading, but then the computer actually goes and makes it a little bit bigger than what it is. But either way, there is some of that wind out there right now. So let me get the closer view of our winds here. Here we go. This will give you an idea, because this is the one where I'm saying follow the shading. The shading here tells you a really good part of the story.
About 41 mile per hour gusts, St. Pete.
No.
Winds?
That is sustained. That
Wow.
is a steady wind. That's the highest we've seen today. 41 mile per hour sustained winds.
That's enough to shut down the Skyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's at the surface, right? That's out of Albert Whitted Airport right there. But that's obviously coming right in off the water. Now it's actually starting to come in a little bit from the south-southwest there. You can see it's south-southeast at this particular time, but that's changing as we speak.
Is that the highest we've seen today?
Yes, that's the highest I've seen is sustained winds. We've had the 39 in Manatee and Sarasota County, 38, 39. But for St. Pete, which was at 39 before, now has come up. And that's with the south to southeast wind still. So when that arrow that you see there next to the 41, when that turns and starts porting to the upper right, it's more of a south wind or a southwesterly wind. Be interesting to see what that number looks like. Hopefully, it goes down. If it goes down, it will minimize the more tidal flood, more surge that we're going to see, okay? Because that's part of the wind that's doing the number right now. Now, I have not heard from Safety Harbor or from Oldsmar. I got to imagine that Oldsmar is seeing quite a bit of water just because the track of the wind out of the south-southeast. That puts all kinds of water up. There's nowhere else for it to go, right? It's blowing up in the northern part of the bay, and it just stops. Right up there in Tampa Road, Ari Olds Park area. I keep saying that in Oldsmar, but also in Safety Harbor. That whole area there, right by downtown, is going to be seeing some water up over those docks. They have a lot of races, marathons, and things like that, and they finish up in that area. That area, that grassy field there, that is going to be seeing some flooding there. 3 feet easily can do that to that location. So in those areas, they're not necessarily developed because of that. They know it's kind of low lying. But the shading, 24 mile per hour winds now in Venice, 28 in Sarasota. Things are getting a little bit better there, right? The further south you go, the further away from the center of the storm, the less wind. Same thing as you work your way inland. Lakeland at 13, 29 in Davis Islands. That's still a lot of wind. It's still gusting to the mid-30s there. But Tampa's actually looking a little bit better. Pinellas obviously getting hit more than anybody else. You're just sticking out there in the middle of the winds there. All right, let's see where that center is now, where they've got these north to northeast. There we go. It's about 32 miles. Yeah, it hasn't really changed too much right there. But it's about 30 miles offshore right now of Pinellas County, which is just perfect to keep that right-hand side right on top of us right now.
Hey, Bobby, and you described this a little earlier, but we may have some, new people joining us right now. What I find interesting is the time of year and how that can affect the sort of hurricane that we get. Can you talk a little bit more about that when we get hurricanes in November compared to October or even, August?
Yeah, that's a great idea. So I'll just zoom out here and draw this for you here. So in June and July, I'll give you the whole big picture here. In June, in the beginning of the season, we watch the Gulf, we watch a little bit of this area, and then the other side of Florida. All right, we watch those areas for development. As the season wears on, you get into July, you start looking a little bit more here. You get into August, then you really start looking out. In August, in fact, you start looking more out into here. And certainly September, you're watching all the way out for those long track storms, those ones that would come off of Africa and come all the way up, right? Irma, that's what happened with Irma. And that was in August, by the way. Then in September, you start to come back a little bit more here in the Caribbean and the central Atlantic, although you can still get waves off of Africa. But then by the time you get towards October, now you're starting to focus a little bit more down in here. And in fact, it's more in the Western Caribbean than anything else. And then in November, there's just small spots in here that you're watching for development. Now, because of the way we have cold fronts coming through, and there's essentially a cold front sitting right in here, if you get development down here in the western Caribbean, which, look at this track. You see over here? That's where Eta actually formed, or at least started. And then it really formed kind of here in the central Caribbean, and then did its number. You can see where it went up here. Because of that, now you start watching, okay, what happens? They come up, they come out, and they come at us. So actually, we have a better chance here in Tampa of getting hit by a hurricane or a tropical storm the beginning of the season and the end of the season, because things can get up into the Gulf and get pushed northeastward. It's kind of hard. I mean, Miami has like a 1 in 8 chance of getting a hurricane every year. We have about 1 in 12.
Oh.
Right, so we're about a third better.
You said this earlier, and I found this pretty interesting. When was the last time Tampa had a direct hit from a hurricane?
1946 was the Tampa Bay
We've
hurricane.
been lucky for quite some time.
We've been very lucky.
Especially given what's happened with Louisiana this year.
Oh yeah, seven storms up against Louisiana. It's just amazing. I don't even know, your just heart goes out to those people having to deal with that. And they had, Laura was Cat 3. I mean, that just went in and just wreaked havoc in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So we're very fortunate that this is happening this time of year. I've been showing you the water vapor as well too. I mean, you're not going to find dry air like this around here not really even in June, but certainly not July, August, September. It just doesn't happen. And so that has been wrapped around into this just a little bit. Look where the convection, now the convection's near the center. It should be. That's what's happening right now, right? But it's certainly not happening much on the south side anymore because that dry air is getting wrapped in. And there's just all kinds of dry air around this thing. And that's part of the season. Plus the water temperatures. Obviously, 80 degrees is the number that you need. And we've been fortunate because we had a couple good cold fronts. And so look at all that blue that you see up there in the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico, right near the land. Yep, you see that 75 degrees out there towards Houston. Our water temperature is about 77 degrees. 80 gets down there as you get down towards Manatee and really towards Sarasota, southern end, really a part of Sarasota for the beaches. But that helps not fuel the storm, if you will. 80 plus, I mean, look where that purple is. South of that 82 degree reading right there. That's where this thing did its U-turn. And that's where it started to come back. And so, yeah, it was already getting its act together and coming back. I mean, well, it's been back up. The hurricane is back down now since it made that U-turn down there.
Bobby, what made this storm so hard to track? Because we saw that it basically came off Cuba, bounced up, kind of did a loop. We thought 2 days ago, we thought this thing was going to skirt us and keep going to the west. And then just yesterday, in a moment's notice, it bounced right back to the east.
It seemed like it was all over the place.
It was a drunk storm.
Yeah, it really was.
Seems like it had a little bit too much to drink.
So what had happened here, let me see if I can get to a point where I can draw on this thing. Here we go. So we were watching this ridge out here, okay? That was parked there. It was moving in position, but it was actually backing up closer to Florida just a little bit. As the storm was coming off here, remember it went to Cuba and it just stopped and turned around and it went like this. That's because it ran into this high pressure ridge out here. Okay, that one we were a little bit more confident in when we saw that in the forecast. Then where was it going to go? And the models were just all over the place. Once it got to here, does it go here? Does it come up? Does it come up? And then it was going around. Some of them were actually taking it further back down to the south and the west, but a lot of them took it from here and just kind of stalled it right here. And that's because of this high that's here and then this trough that is here. The trough, that middle area, is what helps to pick these things up. But the models were not seeing that. And that can happen. If that trough, I kind of made a U there. You see this? Let me draw it again like this. If that is not far enough to the south, the storm will go right underneath it. It's not close enough to pick up and affect that storm and pull it off to the north. That one's just a bit strong enough, and the models were thinking that this high pressure here was going to jump in a little bit stronger and be maybe somewhere sitting out in here, and that would have blocked it. It didn't happen. This trough right in here is stronger. It ate away on this side of it, and it ate away on this side of it, and now it's allowing it to go up and come out. So that's where we're sitting at right now, and that's actually a really good thing because it's not going to have a chance to sit around and affect anybody else. Really, it's going to get picked up and taken out.
Yeah, that was a good explanation because I know a lot of people were wondering that. So when you break it down like that, you can understand what exactly influenced this storm to end up where we are right now. All right, Bobby, I'm going to pick up from here. Guys, why don't we go ahead and take a look at this really crazy video Sarasota PD just tweeted out. They've been really tweeting out some incredible stuff. I mean, they've been on it tonight. This is on the 200 block of John Ringling Boulevard. The police are using these videos to just remind everyone, all of us, to stay home and to make sure you stay safe. Look at that video right there.
We've got water over the seawall on Treasure Island as well. First time since 1967.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep. It's bad out there. It's going to be bad out there.
All right. Let's go ahead and chat about our airports. Gosh, Bobby, that's incredible. Okay, so Tampa International Airport as well as Sarasota Bradenton Airport suspended all operations. Now, this happened earlier this afternoon. So if you did have a flight, you're going to want to make sure that you get in contact with your airline to see what your next step is going to be there. Now, earlier today, HART suspended all services as well as PSTA. There are school closures with many transitioning to online learning for the rest of the week. You can find a list right now on 10tampabay.com. Now, as of now, you've got Pinellas, Polk, Citrus, Hernando, and Polk County schools will be closed tomorrow. Sarasota County says it will be open on time tomorrow. A good distinction there. Now, Manatee and Hillsborough County will be closed tomorrow as well as Friday. And there are also several universities in our area that have canceled classes for tomorrow as well. Again, you can find that full list at 10tampabay.com.
All right, so if you guys are just tuning in, we do want to get you out to a news alert in Manatee County now. We had Manatee County's emergency operations manager on earlier to talk with us. This was prior to learning that rescue crews were working on what appears to be an electrocution at a home in Bradenton Beach. And sadly, first responders found a man inside that home who had died after they had cut the power and were able to see inside from electrocution. Investigators tell us there was also standing water inside that home. No other info right now is being released to us. You can check out the full story on 10tampabay.com. But again, it's why we show you why Sarasota PD is sending out a lot of these images and videos of standing water, streets flooded, just to say, guys, be safe as best as you can. Again, we don't know all the information related to this story right here, but do try and stay as safe as you possibly can. For those of you that did evacuate today, I know there's a lot of shelters are taking up those COVID-19 protocols. If you're watching us from there, we certainly appreciate it. Masks are required if you're in there. And it's also voluntary rapid testing is available if there are those that are going to these facilities. If they do test positive, they were able to take those people and separate them from the others to make sure that there's no further spread of COVID-19.
Sure that distancing,
Yep, and if you are heading out to these shelters, you do need to go there. You have somebody there, family, friends, what have you. PPE and obviously your own masks are certainly required there to make sure that everybody does stay safe.
All right, we can't tell you this phone number enough, but it really is just an easy way for you to get the information that you need when we're dealing with the tropics. Okay, text the word tropics to 727-577-8522, and we will go ahead and send you a link to our hurricane headquarters. It's really just a good tool for all the information that you need as we continue our coverage. And also, go to our 10 Tampa Bay app, okay? Right there, you can post videos. Now, when we say post videos, just make sure that you're safe. We don't want you in the middle of a storm getting videos and getting hurt. That is not the purpose here. We would just rather you, if you're in a safe place, to share your videos with us. But yeah, we're going to do that. So look at this. Ryan, let's go over some of the videos that we're seeing here in our area. This is some flooding. Finley, which area are we in right here? So I could tell the view. That's
like
Sarasota
towards the
there.
Beach.
Yeah, that's Sarasota. You could see driving through there, and you see the flooding that we're seeing in this area.
I believe this was from earlier. This was
from earlier. We
this
did
was a
show
patrol car that was sending out some of this video earlier. Again, I think this is down there again in Sarasota.
That's why we mentioned that Sarasota has really done a good job of just posting and sending out videos of what they're seeing on the roads. And again, it's to show viewers, show us, all of us, what the conditions are looking like. And yet again, another reason why they remind you, don't drive through those flooded waters. And also, you kind of want to be out of the way of the first responders when they need to get to an emergency call because of areas that are flooded or, that there's an electrical issue there.
Well, we're looking at this, guys. If we can flip this camera around, I do want to show you the power outages. We're getting a lot. The numbers are much bigger from a power outage perspective.
I know they're talking about going to Bobby Deskin's.
Oh, all right. If you want to take Bobby, that's fine. I'll just give you the numbers right now. We've got about 28,000 people in Pinellas County that are without power. That is so far the highest that we've seen to this point, 28,229. Taking a look at Tico right now, about 4,989 people without power. That's the highest we've seen tracking to this point. Sarasota County, 4,530. Manatee, that's come down just under 2,000 people without power. So again, crews are trying to restore power as quickly as they can. We talked to the FP&L spokesperson earlier. And Bobby D, I know it's important about safety, trying to stay safe. If you are without power, you're streaming us. We thank you so much for tuning into our coverage.
Yep. Play it safe tonight. Stay inside. Don't be messing with that electricity if you can help it. Have somebody else do that. The winds are still up. So if you're expecting somebody to come out and fix the power, it is starting to get a little bit better in southern parts of Pinellas County, so they may be able to get out. But if you're in northern Pinellas, northwestern Hillsborough County, it's still pretty windy out there, and it's coming down real good as far as the rainfall is concerned. So it's going to be a little bit slower. And in fact, those areas are going to start to see more power outages just because the wind's been blowing and it's been picking up pretty good just over the last half hour to 45 minutes or so. Pasco County certainly seeing that in the Trinity area right now, and that is not going to stop for a couple of hours. So you're going to be seeing some in Trinity. Yep. Okay, that makes good sense because and a lot of that's just started here just in the last half hour because that's where we've seen some of the heavier showers come up. Most of northwest Hillsborough and central Hillsborough County seeing some pretty heavy rainfall. You see Carrollwood there, the Lutz area, Lando Lakes, very heavy rainfall. This is piling up. Not too many places for it to go. This rainfall rates generally are in, let me go look at some of these rates here because that's going to show you some of the heavier downpours, of course, but essentially what's happening is that's going to cause quite a bit of flooding in many locations. Where does that go? I don't see it right here. Let me just look for some rotation here. Okay, so some of those heavier downpours have a little bit of rotation in it. We're always kind of keeping this an eye on this in the background. And you can see east of Newport Richey, that's really kind of out over Starkey Ranch there, although back in the day there wasn't anything there, but now Pasco County's growing so fast, Starkey Ranch is actually growing up. But no warnings in that area right now, okay? But there could be some pretty good thunderstorms coming through. Well, I shouldn't say thunderstorms, but pretty good winds coming through with that rain band right there, just north of the Odessa area, north of Highway 54, but just west of the Veterans, okay, 589. That's the Veterans that you're looking at right there. There you can see, it's nothing very impressive, at least here on the radar. But man, look at that. West Chase, that is some rain right there. Rocky Point, that is some rain right there as well, too. All streaming through the area, generally from the south-southeast. You get the idea that the rain, though, is emanating. These circles, these bands, are pushing out to the north and the east as they go. Look at western parts of Pinellas County down through Indian Rocks Beach. You see it's starting to redevelop this rain band here. So flooding is going to be the issue. This is a combination now of storm surge and of rainfall. And it is not going to get better for a couple of hours in many of these locations, especially that's the type of rain right there in Indian Rocks Beach and Bel Air Bluffs that does the almost over to Kenneth City, not quite there yet, but that's the type of rain that can cause some flooding because it's training over the same areas right there in central Pinellas County, right there at Highway 60 going across to Clearwater. So Clearwater is just getting dumped on right now. Again, already seen generally anywhere from 5 to, almost 6 inches of rainfall now. Look at this area. This is down towards Palmetto, almost 7 inches. We had that spot in southern Pinellas that had almost 9 inches. There's 7 up towards Clearwater. The Feather Sound area looking at about 6.4 inches. Old Northeast, not quite as much, but look, 7 inches. That's on 4th Street, right just north of downtown St. Petersburg. Let me take this back. I want to show you a loop, and you're going to see clearly where the center of this storm went. Let's go back, let's do 12 hours or so, and I'll put this into motion. And watch the rainfall pile up along the coast. There's Sarasota, Bradenton, St. Pete, and then look at it, just continues to grow as it moves to the north. And that's what's been happening. It's just been the past 12 hours that we're seeing it. Those shadings, those colors there, anywhere really from about 4 to 6 inches of rainfall, but obviously we've got higher numbers than that. And that's just estimated, right? That is the Doppler radar kind of trying to see, it takes the reflectivities, it says how hard has it been raining, and it converts that into a total number for rainfall in inches, and that's what we're displaying there for you. But it's going to be a lot of flooding. That water's got to drain off. That's going to go into, it's going to try and go into the bay and try and go into the Gulf, but those waters are coming up right now with the storm surge. And so none of that rain is going to go very far here over the next, let's say, 3 hours or so. We're getting close. I think after midnight, things will start to get a little bit better for Pinellas County. Autumn, I see you got a shot of the beach out there. That looks like it's coming up a little bit more.
Oh, for sure, especially compared to the past couple of hours. You can actually see those waves there well up on shore, slowly but surely here, creeping up. So surge is going to continue to be a major issue, or a main issue, throughout the rest of the night. You can just see that here clearly just on Clearwater Beach with that surf there. Now, as we get throughout the rest of the night, as Bobby was mentioning, the winds will start to die down just a little bit. But at this point, you can see they're still kind of ramping up just a bit. So throughout much of Pinellas County, we're seeing sustained winds at around near 40 miles per hour. That's pretty good, and some gusts at around more than 50 miles per hour, and that's just in St. Pete alone. As you get further out, you can see those colors there, that gradient. We're starting to see those deeper colors inch more so to the north as that center travels more so to the north. So northern Pinellas, you guys may see some gustier winds within the next hour or so, and then even heading into the Nature Coast, they may see some gustier winds as well. So even though we're starting to see some slight breaks in the rain, I know Bobby just showed you another a tail of rain starting to develop and move into Pinellas, but we are seeing some brief breaks in the rain. So even though we're seeing that, and even though some of the heaviest rain is actually moving kind of out of St. Pete and more so into Hillsborough and also into the Nature Coast, those winds are still going to stay kind of high throughout the rest of the evening here. So we still have surge issues that will be a major issue throughout much of the area tonight. We've gotten some reports just around St. Pete Beach of water rather high at this time, just from surge and maybe just a little bit of the mix in with the rain, but the water is really starting to move in as we get throughout the rest of the night. So that's one thing we have to worry about. Of course, the heavy rain. We're not really seeing anything too significant or really anything that impressive here on our radar, but besides just the heavy rain that's currently passing through. And that will continue to make its way more so to the northeast over the next 12 hours or so as we get into the overnight hours into the start of Thursday. Let's take a look. Let's get a little further in here. So you can see now most of the heavy rain that we're currently seeing is mainly along still kind of in the Clearwater area. I think it was Bobby just mentioned that. Also Carrollwood, Tampa, you're starting to get some really heavy rain passing through there, and even parts of eastern Tampa, like in the Brandon area, Fishhawk, Riverview, still seeing that rain pass through. And you can see out in the Gulf there, it is going to be a little bit drier as we get throughout the next couple of hours or so. But over the next hour, we're really not going to see much of a difference here. Let's take a look at the rainfall estimates. This is from the past 24 hours, and much of Pinellas County received between 5 to 6 inches of rain. Even southern Pinellas County a little bit higher than that, with rain totals within the past 24 hours or so just at 9 inches. So significant rain. That's not good for flooding, and we of course continue to see that street flooding throughout the rest of the evening. Bobby, can I toss it back to you?
Yes, absolutely. I want to show you some 3D radar here, Autumn. This is, if you notice, we don't have a lot of thunderstorms out there. We tend not to see a lot of thunderstorm activity, especially near the center of hurricanes. We actually tend to see it a little bit further away. That was when we were seeing some of those tornado warnings earlier this afternoon, extending outward from the center. This is kind of tough to see, but I want you to look right here. 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet. Rarely are you going to see anything over 30,000 feet, and most of this is actually in that 20,000 feet range. So if you look over there over Pinellas County, I'm going to kind of move this back and forth so you can kind of get a better look. Look right here. You see this right in here? I mean, that right there is probably about 15,000, maybe 16,000 feet high. The actual tops are a little bit higher than that, but these are low top storms, and they usually are, and they're usually pretty flat right across. Now, when I showed you that water vapor shot earlier, some of that is actually a little bit taller in points, especially right near the center. But if you look at the 3D view here, you see a lot of it's pretty monotone. You know what I mean? It's basically one level. See how flat it was initially? But notice what happens here, where it kind of broke, it fell apart. That is what happened right as it moved close to us. That is the redevelopment that's been occurring. That's the reason why the winds are still at 70 miles per hour. It's just not falling apart. I mean, the core is not. There's much more dry air surrounded all around this area right here, but you can see how it's still actually pretty good as far as convection goes in that particular area. Now, Recon's been out there. 56 mile per hour winds is what they had. Let me switch this. I want to get you, I think we've got a newer one here. Let's put that on there. And there it is. You can see out there 67 mile per hour winds. 992 is pressure. So that's the latest one out of Keesler Air Force Base. That's where they're flying in. And yeah, you can see 67 mile per hour wind. So that would keep it at about 70 miles per hour for the update. And that's what they did as of 7 o'clock. And they're going to keep going on. Now, look, what happened, we fly these C-130s. That's what they actually have out of Keesler. That's a C-130 out there. We've got the P-3s that are based out of Lakeland Linder. Those are Kermit and Miss Piggy. We call our hurricane hunters. But we also have Gulfstream that's based out of Lakeland and Linder. It's one of those G4s, and that thing flies around, and it flies around the outside, and it's taking measurements all around the outside. It takes that data and puts it in the models. And so the models finally got a hold of some of that data late yesterday, and that's when things started shifting east with all of the models. The Hurricane Center actually moved their track eastward almost 200 miles in less than 24 hours, and that rarely happens in a short amount of time. They just don't move it that fast. They try and move it a little bit slower in steps, but they had to. And look, a lot of this crept up because once it started that turn yesterday, then, well, here it is. It's already here now because the center reformed to the center and it went off to the north and the east. In fact, let me show you a little bit better picture here. It wasn't supposed to be, it was supposed to come down here and then come here. It wasn't supposed to be out here, but then once it jogged, you think it's a little bit of a jog, and then all of a sudden that mid-level center took over, it reformed, and that just put it in the track to come right up towards where we are right now. And of course, that changed all of our forecasts, right? That changed what we expect out of each particular storm. This basically, recon will continue even as it's flying over land. And then likely as it gets east of Jacksonville, they'll probably stop doing, I don't think they'll do any more than that because it'll start merging with the cold front at that particular point and become a little bit more in the extratropical range. All right, here we go, 7 o'clock. Where we got 9:20 right now, 9:25.
Yep, about coming up on 9:25.
And we've got still 70 mile per hour winds. That recon that's out there is saying 67, so it's going to likely stay there. 993 millibars, still coming up. That's good news. The higher that number goes, the weaker the storm gets, okay? And the winds will come down just a little bit with that. At this point, the highest winds are now moving into northern Pinellas, northwestern Hillsborough County, and up into Pasco County. Winds are decreasing here. They are unfortunately coming on shore, so that's going to keep that water up. But things have gotten a lot better down into Manatee County. Let me find my winds here. And let's look at Manatee and especially Sarasota County, because now Venice has been looking good. Look, 22 mile per hour winds, 26 in Sarasota, 12 in Bradenton. That would be nice, right? Still some good water coming in there. 35 in St. Pete, gusting to 46. 23 in Clearwater, gusting to 43. And obviously inland locations aren't doing as bad. So yeah, things are getting slowly better. It's going to take through the overnight hours before this happens, though. And again, if you're in that Pinellas area, if you're in Hillsborough, anywhere around the bay here, through midnight, water levels will be trying to come back up because high tides, just alone, high tides are anywhere from 9 through about midnight. It varies. But we still have that wind blowing on shore, and it's not going to be well until after midnight that it starts to move and decrease enough, because it's not going to change direction, but it is going to decrease enough that we end up having some of that water allowed to go back out here. I got to show you this, guys. This is, oh, come on, tell me it's going to show up. Yeah, this is going to take a little while. This is the season. So 2005, if you lived around here then, we had 28 named storms that hurricane season. 3 of them went over the same spot in Polk County. Talk about a year, right? And they were relatively strong storms at the time. This year, and it's loading now, we have set the record. We now have 29 named storms with Theta, which is way out there. But there's Theta now, you can see it there. There's so much data on this map for this season that's taking this long for this thing to load. Let me go ahead and see if I can get it to work here. Those are all of the storms that we've seen this year. 29 named storms. We've got another one that looks pretty decent here in the Central Caribbean right now. That's got about a 70 to 80% chance of developing, but that looks like it's coming, unfortunately, into Nicaragua again, which is obviously still recovering. They will be for some time from this storm, from Eta when it went through. but you can see the storms populating here. Each one of these is what happened this year. There are 24 named storms on the list. We're well into the Greek alphabet at this point, and the next name is Iota. So you'll hear a lot of jokes like, I don't give one iota, about the rest of the season.
I'll tell you, Bobby, for those of us who lived in this area in 2005, we will not forget that hurricane season.
That was the worst.
I mean, I'm still traumatized by it. It was just a rough
Yeah,
season.
and imagine how those folks in Louisiana feel.
Oh, no, I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
All right, Bobby, thank you. So we have crews stationed all across the Bay Area in some of our most impacted areas. Tonight, 10 Tampa Bay's Liz Crawford. She is in Tarpon Springs. And Liz, you're looking pretty soggy right now.
Well, we're here in Tarpon Springs. You can see gusty winds and that pelting rain. We've been kind of waiting for it all day. We've been here since noon, so we've seen these conditions change. Earlier, it was kind of calm. You just had that mist. Now, give it a couple of minutes, and I would say every 30 seconds, we're getting these gusty winds. I like to show you the trees because that gives you an indication. Look at the bend in those trees. That's what we're looking at. So I've talked to police officers today. I've talked to people in emergency management. They said at this point in the night, you've got to be in a safe place. Stay home, stay in a safe structure. And if you are out on the roads and you come in contact with flooded roads, turn around. Tarpon Springs has some very flood-prone areas. We'll be keeping an eye on that. But of course, the gusty winds, also a big concern as we make it through the overnight hours.
All right, Liz, glad you're staying safe out there. Try and stay as dry as you certainly can. We're getting a little update here, so bear with me. All right, so taking a look at our power outages across the area. If you're just tuning in to our 10 Tampa Bay Facebook live stream here, Carolina Lead, Ryan Bass, Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins, and Autumn Robinson are here. Robert Robertson is here with you. So we are updating you on what's going on. Right now, if we take a look at our power outages, we had somebody on from FP&L a little bit earlier updating us on Bill Orlov, updating us on the process, trying to get people power back. They're working as hard as they can, guys. Certainly, if they can get out there as quick to you, they will. Let's take a look at Duke Energy, because that's where we're seeing the majority of our power outages here. This number keeps going up. 29,000 people now in the Tampa Bay area have seen the power outages here. The majority of it, you're taking a look at the Anclote, Newport Richey area up here north of Palm Harbor, and then down here towards downtown St. Pete and out towards the beaches, Indian Rocks, Madeira Beach. This is the Gulfport area. We've seen a lot of reports of flooding there. We've had some of our crews sending in pictures and video from a lot of you guys there. We've seen a lot of that. Just want to give you one quick update on TECO. About 4,000. That's been increasing as we've seen. And then we talked about FP&L a little bit ago. These numbers have actually been going down a bit. Sarasota down to 4,500, Manatee County about 1,900. We've seen those numbers coming down. But Bobby, when you talk about power outages, a lot of that flooding, especially in the South St. Pete area, could be having to contribute with some of what we've been seeing.
That's exactly what's happening. Now, some of our local storm reports here, you're going to see some of those flooding numbers. This is water. This is out, well, basically out on Longboat Key. This is the gentleman who was electrocuted out there on the beach. That's the casualty that we know of at this particular point. The rest of these brown and white readings that you see here, they are tropical storm force wind gusts that have occurred. 52 mile per hour, Sarasota Bradenton International Airport. I want to take you to storm surge. It is still rising. I expect it to continue to rise through about, Manatee and Sarasota County, maybe to about 11 p.m., but certainly in Pinellas and in Hillsborough, at least through midnight tonight. Down here in Manatee and Sarasota County, that's the wrong button here, let me push this, getting reports that we're still seeing the water come up, okay? We're still seeing the water come up down at the Pierce Drain, and this is Gap Creek. Hold on, let me get that for you. The Pierce Drain, the Gap Creek, and Bowley's area, Bowley's Creek. The water's been coming up another foot just in the past 3 hours. Excuse me. And really in the past 3 hours is when we've seen the higher winds blow on shore down there in Manatee County, okay? So water is still up. I don't see it going down for at least another couple of hours. In fact, it could go up for another hour and a half here or so. Excuse me. Now, Madeira Beach, storm surge. We've got social media video of John's Pass and the boardwalk there. Water basically comes halfway up to the restaurant tables on the boardwalk at John's Pass.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to give you an idea of the storm surge there, that's incredible.
And that's going to be some of those lower ones. If you're thinking bubble gum, shrimp, that's way up there. That's not in those locations because that's like 2 stories up or whatever. Oh, thank you very much, Brian. But there are some low-lying docks that are right there, and they've got some tables on it, and that water's coming up right there. So that is a lot of storm surge. And you know what? That's starting to verify 3 to 4 feet of storm surge in those locations. So it's going to be quite a mess to clean all this up. And so that's, I just talked about Manatee County, but those numbers are down here in Pinellas County down here in the Johns Pass area. So all of these areas, and Tierra Verde especially, many of those low-lying areas, Madeira Beach. And of course, that's out what we would consider the beach, but it's the same thing, out here that really you're seeing up in here too, because the water's being blown right up into here. And so all of these numbers are going to be very, very similar. It might be a little bit higher right in here just because now you've got waves. You've got big waves able to push in more water and get it up onto the beaches and get it up into those locations there. Really from Indian Rocks all the way down. Clearwater is actually seeing really high water there as well too, but not as bad as what we're seeing down south right now. And again, I still think we've got another 2.5 hours for that to at least hold, if not come up just a little bit more. The good news is that those winds will start to come down, and that process is about where we're at now with the storm, with that particular location. I got the winds here.
Hold on. A couple of years ago, was it Irma, I believe it was, when we saw the water being sucked out of the bay and so forth. Could that occur again? Or that was one of the strangest things I've seen.
Yeah,
I've lived here my whole life.
It's the same exact thing. It's literally just the wind pushing waters. Which way is it going to push it, right? And that's happening. That kind of gives you an idea of just the power of the wind. Yeah. Now, those winds were 80, 90 miles per hour, 70, 80, 90 miles per hour, mostly 70 or 80, pushing southward. And that was blowing the water out. The center of the storm was out in central Polk County at the time, near Lakeland, actually. But on the backside of this, offshore, that's happening. That's not going to happen. We've had some east to northeast winds the last day or two, to be honest with you, that tried to lower the levels a little bit, but not a whole lot. And then as the lower pressures with the storm, which only adds about maybe 10% to the surge, it's not a lot at all, but it's mainly the winds. And now as they have turned, and as you've seen in Manatee County, it was running high because Manatee and Sarasota County, you see that angle there. It doesn't take as much to get it onshore. It was blowing onshore with a south wind down there. Right? A south wind here is blowing onshore. A south wind up in Pinellas County is kind of blowing parallel, but it's blowing past. So they've had some onshore winds in Manatee and Sarasota County for a while, but now it's really blowing. And now, as we thought, the numbers have come down. It's sustained in the 20s to maybe near 30. You can watch that number there at Sarasota Braid International, but it's still water. And it's still enough to hold that water there. And with the rainfall totals anywhere from 4 to 7 inches of rain, all that trying to drain off, there's just nowhere else for it to go. That band adds to the wind. So when that band shifts to the north, the wind will come down a little bit. We're not seeing winds like that down in Venice right now because they don't have that rain band. In a normal situation, you would expect higher winds inside the rain bands. That's exactly what we have right now, but those winds are now blowing southwest in that rain band, and that's blowing water up on there. And unfortunately, that's going to move right up the coast, and that's why I say we've got a good 2.5, almost 3 hours at least for Pinellas and Hillsborough.
Speaking of Pinellas, Bobby, can you take a little bit of closer look at Gulfport right now? Because we're hearing from some of our coworkers here who've talked to some of the owners that have some businesses up there that the flooding is so bad. You're talking about water up to the owners' knees of some of these establishments there along Beach Boulevard in Gulfport. Just an area that obviously with strong storm surge like that can cause some potentially devastating damage.
Yeah, and the casino, they call it the casino. It's not a real casino, a big gambling casino, but that's a casino down there. That obviously is taking on some water right now, at least it has to. As you go up the main street there in Gulfport, it gets higher. There's a library there, and I do a lot of hurricanes. Once a year, I'll go out there and talk about hurricane preparedness, usually out in June. That is a little bit higher. They actually even have some shelters in that particular area, but that restaurant row, when you're going south, straight south down towards the casino on the end, I wish I did the best Italian restaurant there I go to every now and then. I can't remember, but I hope.
Got a great breakfast place
I
down
hope
there
they're
too.
okay. But 3 to 5 foot, 3 to 4 especially, is going to be coming up there. Obviously 5 foot's more than that, but that's going to be coming up in that area. And I don't see that really stopping right now, guys. Again, we've got a ways to go. You can see Gulfport Boulevard south right there.
You're talking about like the Caddies area down there, and really along that beach, if you will.
Yeah, so this Gulfport can get surge just because of the wind coming in out of the south-southeast. So it's not, the wind is still pretty much coming like this. It's trying to turn a little more to the south, and then eventually it's coming into the southwest. But all 3 of those blow water up into Gulfport and up in the intercoastal and up, even behind, up in the Tierra Verde.
I just want to encourage people too, if you're watching on our Facebook stream and you have some videos, safely obviously, but if you've got some videos you want to share with us, it's easy to do. If you head to our 10 Tampa Bay app, just click the Near Me section. You can upload those to us. You can also share it to our Twitter pages, Ryan WTSP, Carolina WTSP. We're taking a look at some of those right now. But again, just hoping everybody stays safe out there as we take a look at some of what's going through, Bobby, and some of the areas here that are seeing some of the strongest impacts.
Yeah, this is getting to be the worst of it. So we've got the rain starting to come down a little bit in some locations. You're getting some breaks, but that wind shift is doing all the damage right now. That's what's going to push a lot of that water in there. Autumn, is that a model I see you have there over on the traffic PC?
Yeah, I have the RPM up. So run through it really quickly since
Sorry,
I think some of us are asking, when are we going to see the sunshine again, or at least some drier weather? It's coming. It's coming slowly but surely. We have like a few more hours with the heavy rain continuing to push through. You see this band that's pushing through right now. That'll continue to head more so to the northeast over the next several hours here. So overnight into the start of tomorrow morning, I think some of our inland counties will be waking up, or even waking up overnight, to hearing some of that heavy rain and even some of those gustier winds. But you can see Pinellas County, also a lot of the coast, Manatee, Sarasota County, we will start to calm down over the next hour or two. So the winds will still be a big issue, but the rain overall will actually start to calm down just a bit. Now, as we get throughout the rest of the night, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, some of our inland counties could see some heavy rain. Polk County, you guys are up next. Parts of our Nature Coast inland counties could see some heavy rain as well. But you can see a lot of the coast here looking a little bit drier, maybe some showers pushing in to Manatee and Sarasota County overnight, but a lot of us will be sleeping at this time. But of course, be weather aware as you go to sleep. Just keep a weather radio on if you do have one, or keep your phones up. Now, as we get throughout Thursday morning, this is around 7 o'clock. You can see much of the coasts, or at least our coastal counties, are looking much drier. The clouds are around, and there's still a couple of showers here and there, but nothing like what we saw today. And then check out those winds. I don't know if you guys can see them, but up in that corner there, 16 miles per hour compared to what we're seeing right now. That is much calmer, and those winds will start to continuously go down as we get throughout the rest of the day. So this is around 12, 1, 2 o'clock. You can see not much going on. We may even see some clearer skies in some areas as we get into our overnight hours on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday, the weekend looks pretty nice. So this is really much the rest we have to get through tonight. Just those gusty winds, of course, the surge, the water that we're seeing out there on the roads. Be mindful of that. If you're going to be driving over the next couple of hours, we advise you not to, but if you have to, please be mindful of that. And the heavy rain we're pretty much going to see that continue to push through overnight, and then as you wake up tomorrow morning, a lot of us will be in the clear. Bobby.
Finally starting to get some breaks in western Pinellas County. Thank you very much, Autumn. Yeah, it's a little light at the end of the tunnel, right? We're
Bobby,
getting there.
I think we're going to show a little bit of video before we come back to you. Let's just show it real quick. Yeah, we're just going to run through some of this video real quick, Bobby. You can definitely chime in on this one.
I think that's the area we were just talking about earlier.
Yeah, it is. It's Sarasota. They really have been showing us some really incredible video throughout the area. And Sarasota PD, that's who we were going to credit here for this video of flooding that they're seeing. Look, they are sending out this video reminding people of the dangerous conditions that are out there right now, and to urge people, just stay home. Remember that you've got nurses, doctors, firefighters, police officers, all of them they have to go to work. They're here to protect us. They're here to make sure that we're safe. So why don't we leave the roads clear for them when you do not necessarily need to go out, unless you do. So that video is from downtown. Now let's go look at Venice video that we had from earlier tonight. The video, this video is also incredible. We can't show it enough, right? So this is some damage that we saw from some of the bands that we saw from Eta earlier today. So the roof collapsed in Venice here. This was a manufactured home. Luckily, no one was inside that home at the time when it happened. So what the Public Works Department did was they went ahead and took a dumpster and put it on top of the debris to prevent any more damage from happening, because it's one thing to try and clean it up, but in the immediate, right, when you're trying to get this resolved, you need to come up with a solution so it doesn't get any worse than it already is at that moment. If you want to get some more information from us, let's go ahead. You're going to text the word tropics to the number that you see right there on your screen. We will just go ahead and immediately send you the information that you need when it comes to our local weather.
9:41 here in Tampa Bay. We're starting to see this storm as it makes its way again. Bobby had talked about maybe around 3 a.m., the center of it going just north of Citrus County, across the border there and crossing onto land. Let's go up north of our counties, Hudson Beach, which is where our Madison Allworth is. And Madison, I know we're starting to see those bands. We checked in with you about an hour ago, and it is picking up significantly since the last time we saw you.
Yeah, I bet you can tell on camera that just from now versus an hour ago, this wind is way up. The rain is coming at us sideways. This storm is coming for us here at Hudson Beach. You can definitely feel the impact. As you can see behind me, the trees are really whipping. The grass is going. It's just been getting worse, honestly, every 10 minutes we check, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. Something I mentioned earlier, which we could see as a potential issue here, high tide's going to be around 10:10 tonight. And then the storm could be really impacting this area around 11 or slightly later. But the high tide plus that storm impact could really be a recipe for disaster. So definitely a good idea to get off of the roads and get safe. We were at some sandbag locations earlier. There's a lot of low-lying areas here. So those families and those homes trying to protect themselves as this storm comes in. As you can see there that they were filling up the sandbags this afternoon. Technically, those locations are open for 24 hours, but we are definitely getting to the point where you want to stay inside and you want to stay safe. Because as I mentioned, over just the course of this hour, this storm has really picked up here at the beach. So I can only imagine what those other areas are seeing. And when we drove around this afternoon, we were already seeing some of that flooding, and it's only going to get worse as that tide rises and as this wind and this storm continues to pick up. So we're going to continue to monitor this. I'll be on night side tonight, right around the time that this storm could be hitting us, guys.
Well, Madison, please stay safe there. I want to welcome back in Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins. Yeah, you could see a lot of those bands heading up towards Hudson Beach.
Yeah, that's exactly what we expect, too. That western part of Pasco County for the next 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours, you're going to get some very heavy rain bands coming through. We're starting to see it break. We're getting a little bit of a break here along the immediate coast of Pinellas County. You see these yellows and oranges now just a little bit further away from the immediate beach. There'll be some spots that dry up the rain. You can see that happened earlier down there in Tierra Verde, but now it's raining pretty good again. And that is actually going to be adding quite a bit of rain because it's training over the same areas. But if you look over here into downtown Tampa, into East Tampa as well, too, we still have some very heavy rainfall. This will not stop for several more hours. We could add 1 to 3 more inches of rainfall, especially as you get there in central and eastern parts of Hillsborough County. And that's going to just exacerbate the flooding that we already see in that particular area. This is the dry air that's wrapping around it. But notice, watch how this thing just kind of started taking off there from the center. And that has grabbed more moisture. What we're looking at here is actually the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. And that has really squeezed out some more moisture right over top of us. And it's kept the structure such so that we're still getting the rainfall in that area. I mean, it's still a pretty decently shaped storm, so it's going to continue to throw those rain bands over in our direction. Look at this, guys. Finally starting to see that little area we're talking about, those winds at the mouth of the bay, starting to shrink a little bit. The eye is now up there just about due west of Tarpon Springs at this point, about 30, 33 miles or so off the coast of Tarpon Springs. The southwesterly winds and south-southwest winds are now near the mouth of the bay and the beaches of Pinellas County, certainly down into Manatee County. And as I mentioned earlier, the water is still rising in places in Manatee County, okay? And that type of atmosphere and that wind has to go through Pinellas County. And so it's only going to stay the same and not get any better in Pinellas County until later this evening, well after about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning or so. We're looking at just about 15 minutes to 10 o'clock at this point.
Hey, Bobby, we just got the update for 10 p.m. 65 mile per hour winds now with the storm.
Okay, so
it went down a little bit.
Yeah, hey, we'll take that, right?
We'll take it.
That is that's good news. Let me get you back out here. I'm going to take a look at some of those numbers too. I'm interested what the pressure is going to be coming out with here. 993, they kept it there, but yeah, the winds are down to 65 miles per hour, still moving to the north. You know, that's somewhat good news, but it's just so close now, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. You see that eastern eye wall is right there over top of us, right there over top of northern Pinellas County, northwest Hillsborough. That West Chase area, even out to Carrollwood, even downtown Tampa, you guys are getting it now. That is some of the heaviest rain you're going to see. This is going to put 1 to 2 inches of rainfall here in the next hour. Could actually see even a little bit more than that, but certainly 1 to 2 inches in the next hour. Trinity, that's what you're seeing right now, and that's all up into that Hudson area where we just saw Madison out there, and she's just on the northern end of that. You saw it starting to pick up even while we were talking to her, but that's just the beginning of it. Heavy, heavy rainfall. East Lake Woodlands, that whole stretch, McMullen Booth Road, right? The Oaks. I'm just trying to think of all the golf courses up and down McMullen Booth Road. All those areas seeing very, very heavy rainfall. No let up in sight until we get to 9:45. Let's give it probably at least 11:30 before we start to break out some drier. Now, the western part of the county is going to see that. Newport Richey, Tarpon Springs, US 19 westward, we are getting a little bit of a break, but the further east you go in Pinellas and certainly out in northwest Hillsborough County, this is going to continue like this, maybe a little bit lighter for another hour, hour and a half or so. Over on the east side of the bay now, there's some very heavy rainfall here in East Tampa, Riverview, and in the Brandon area. This is out towards the fairgrounds in Orient Park. Winds here have been generally in the 20s and 30s with some gusts in the 40s, but now the rain is getting a little bit heavier, and you see this red here near Falkenberg Road, that in the Gibsonton area. Of course, all that's drifting off towards the north, but that's very, very heavy rainfall, and the numbers are starting to add up. It hasn't been super impressive here, but take a look at some of the numbers that we're seeing now out there. 2.7 out near the fairgrounds. It's a little more than that. Yeah, I was going to say we should be looking in the 3 to 4 inch range for most areas out here, especially in the purple coloring. Look at that, 5.7 in East Tampa. That's going to cause flooding. That water's not going anywhere anytime soon. That's rainfall flooding, guys. That's not surge. The surge will make that rainfall a little bit more of a problem because it just can't drain off and go into the bay and into the river in the time that it normally would. As far as severe weather goes, I don't see much in the way of rotation. There's a cell here just north of Riverview that I'm watching. You can see this right there along I-75 and Falkenberg Road area, west of Bloomingdale, just north of Riverview. Don't think that's much of an issue. I think we're okay. That's just south of Brandon. If you're that 301 corridor right there in 75 and 301. But most areas right now are actually looking pretty good. The tornado threat is minimal at this point, but it is still there. And if we're going to see it, it's likely going to be up in this area right in here. Northern Hillsborough, Pasco, and Hernando County at this particular point. Eastern Pasco as well, too. That little area you see there south of Dade City. Something to watch, but nothing impressive as far as rotation goes. Current winds now, I see some pretty good numbers out there. It looks like now that number we had, Autumn, at St. Pete of, what was it, 41?
It was 41.
That's the highest that we've seen. That's their max for sustained winds, and obviously that's...
Right, sustained, and maybe some people may think that 41 mile per hour is not significant. Sustained, that is very significant. And gusts around 50 miles per hour, a little higher than that just in St. Petersburg. It's starting to calm down, well, at least go down a little bit, just a couple of miles per hour, a little bit less than just about half an hour ago. But we will continue to see these winds weaken as we get into our overnight hours and for the start of Thursday. But for now, we're really not seeing that much at all. We're actually seeing some of these stronger winds starting to head into Hillsborough County. We're seeing gusts in Tampa at around 45 miles per hour. That's pretty significant, along with that heavy rain that's currently passing through there at this time. So throughout much of the night, still continuing to see those impacts. Here's a look at the center. I know we just talked about the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. 65-mile-per-hour winds currently with the storm, and you can still see a very kind of a lopsided storm. We're seeing most of the impacts, pretty much all the impacts to the right of the storm, and that's been forecasted for the past several days. It hasn't really changed much, and back there behind it, not really seeing much at all. That dry air kind of eroded what was kind of on the back end of the storm, so that's kind of a good thing. We're not really going to see much once this center passes through, but we still have a good bit of ways to go as we get throughout the next several hours here. Here's the latest track. Thursday morning, it arrives in the northern central part of Florida there, weakening significantly at 45 miles per hour. Of course, that's going to happen. And as we get throughout the rest of Thursday, it's going to zoom on past. Friday morning looks to approach, get really close to the Carolinas as a depression at that point. So they could see some rain as we get into the start of the weekend. And then eventually we say goodbye to it forever as we get into the weekend. And I know we cannot wait to say goodbye to Eta. It has been around for a very long time. And I know we're all very tired of tracking it. So as we get throughout the rest of the night, I know we have our reporters out there that's working really hard to try to keep everyone safe. They are dealing with, or they're starting to see some of those winds starting to pick up, the rain starting to pick up as well, and on some areas, and of course in Hillsborough County, eastern Hillsborough, you guys are starting to see those impacts as well. And that heavy rain will continue to make its way more so to the north and east over the next couple of hours here. So Polk County, you guys are in for some rain overnight as well. It may wake you up in the morning or overnight in the morning because it's going to pass through overnight more than likely around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So yeah, we still have a ways to go in regards to some of the impacts that we're still seeing tonight. But thankfully, we are starting to see some quieter weather, at least in the sense for rain, Bobby.
Yeah, good. That is good news. With the 10 o'clock update also comes a new wind radii. Okay, that's kind of the technical name for the graphic that you're looking at. This is showing us tropical storm force winds in the yellow. The orange is basically areas where we would see, you'd get a severe thunderstorm warning for those types of winds, right? Up near 60 miles per hour. And we shade that because that level of wind really can start to do some damage to some structures, some minor damage, that type of thing, but it's possible. In this case, it's easier to show you where those highest winds are. So Hudson's in northwest Pasco County. That's where Madison's at. You can see where those winds are right now. You can also notice that down into Sarasota and Bradenton, we still have some high winds. We're seeing sustained winds down in the 20s, not at tropical storm force, which would be 39, so that's good. And then watch as we go through the next couple of hours. Let's go out basically 11 o'clock. Look at Sarasota. You see how those winds are starting to move further to the north. And in fact, by 11 o'clock, the winds in Pinellas are starting to come down. Now let's go out a little bit more. Let's go to 3 a.m. That's a big jump. In fact, so let me do a little less of a jump. Let's go out to about 1 in the morning. The highest winds now have moved out of Pasco County. That's through 1 in the morning. Now that's the wind with the heavy rain bands that are coming through now that you're starting to see there in Trinity and Newport Richey and Hudson and all the way up Little Road, right? What you're seeing now is that orange area that's going to be in northwestern Hernando and Citrus County by about 1 o'clock. So that's going to be moving out. Now, Pinellas County, the winds are finally starting to die down after 1 o'clock. So this is about 3 in the morning. You can see the highest winds have now moved out. Pretty much goes the same thing with Hillsborough County as well. That's going to allow that water to come down. Now, by that time, the tide's already dropping. All right, and we're going to get some help from the tide. It's not going to drop much because of just the way the wind is. And it's going to drop, let's see, about a foot, maybe a foot and a half, just normally. All right, that's what we would normally see. So that means that overnight tonight, the waters will be coming down. And by the time we wake up tomorrow, that's 7 a.m., you can see that, yes, we still have those onshore winds. This is something that we're going to have to deal with. But at that point, they're in the teens, perhaps 20 miles per hour. Okay, that's not enough to cause any kind of surge. The water will be coming back down, but things will be looking better. So if you're going to bed here soon, keep in mind things will be better by the time you wake up in the morning. If you're going to bed and you're in an area where you have flooding concerns, you need to be watching that tonight, because through about 1 o'clock in the morning for Pinellas and Hillsborough County, the Bay and the Pinellas beaches, we're going to have to really be keeping a close eye on these water levels. After that, things will start to get better. You get up into Pasco, and we don't have as many areas with flooding concerns, but we actually really do. I mean, the Anclote River is all kinds of houses along that area up towards the Hooters. That's going to have quite a bit of water in there as well too, and that's right along US 19. US 19 should be fine. We had a storm back in '93 that pushed so much wind and water it made it all the way up to US 19 in western Hernando County. It's not coming up that high in this particular situation, but it is going to be high and eventually coming down overnight tonight. Ryan, we're getting there. We're slowly starting to get to the end of this tunnel here, but still not yet. We're still in the trenches through another 2 or 3 hours.
And I remember earlier, Bobby, you and I were focusing a lot in Carolina on the Sarasota area, right? Sarasota, Manatee. This is something that the Sarasota Emergency Services sent out on their Twitter page a little bit ago. This is one of the lifeguard stands, right? And just take a look at this picture because I found it quite fascinating. Look at that. Bobby, take a look. Just floating out in the middle.
Wow.
With all of that storm and that water kind of pushing up towards the coast. Pretty incredible when you take a look at this, just to show you, and I know Autumn was looking at it a little bit ago, Clearwater Beach, how much the surf had kind of kicked up closer to the shore. This kind of gives you an indication of what they've been seeing down there.
Remember when Leo was out there this afternoon? You got the sense that was coming.
Yeah.
Because that was a really flat area. We saw people in the background taking pictures. And the water was already piling up just from the rain. Wow.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, just to, you don't usually see this area flooded, right? Because this is a lifeguard stand.
Right.
And so pretty nuts to kind of see this. But again, what you're watching right now, Bobby, back out to the radar is some of those storms moving a little bit more north. And that's, as we're looking ahead, so we close this out over the last couple of minutes, what are our northern counties? What for our entire DMA can we really expect as we tie up?
Okay, so the northern counties are going to get more wind out of this now than anybody else. And by northern counties, we're talking the northern part of Pinellas, which is actually going to start to come down, but Pasco still, because it's just now moving into your neck of the woods, and then Hernando and Citrus counties. The winds will be increasing. The water will be coming up for surge there over the next several hours. The water maintains for the areas in Pinellas County, okay? These areas in the bay as well will stay high water level-wise as far as surge goes through the next couple of hours, and probably 2 to 3 hours. I hate to say that, but then it will start to come back down just a little bit. Now, radar here. There are these bands that we're going to have to deal with, and you can see them down here in Sarasota. The surge threat in Sarasota and Bradenton and Manatee County, of course, will slowly come down. It has not really started to come down in all areas. Some areas has. This is a flooding issue, okay? This is areas that may not normally even flood. You may not live near the water, right? You're not worried about the water coming up. This type of training that's going on here is going to cause flooding in your yard, perhaps, because it's just going to dump a lot of rain. We're going to get 2, perhaps maybe even 3 inches in this area from Sarasota eastward going into eastern Manatee County just from that alone. Closer to Hillsborough, we're going to be watching East Hillsborough, East Tampa, Fishhawk, Riverview. We've got a lot of rain headed your way over the next couple of hours. Again, another 1 to 2, perhaps 3 inches in that location. The winds, as we've been saying, they are shifting northward and coming down. We're still seeing gusts of 43 miles per hour in Sarasota, 46 in St. Pete. Numbers are going to come up the further north you go as we go past or closer to midnight. Here's a last look at the track. This is from the Hurricane Center. 45 mile per hour winds. Look at that. It's at 65 now. This Thursday AM is actually closer to sunrise or so. So it's really starting to fall apart. And at that point, it's just kind of moving on and moving up. It will hug the coast, but there's actually a cold front coming through at the same time. So that's going to pick that up and move it further out to sea. Forecast models, it really doesn't make much of a difference at this particular point because it's here and it's moving out. But if you got friends or family over in Daytona, up in the Jacksonville area, center's here, center goes here, weather's here, weather goes here. All right? So please keep this in mind. Be careful this evening. We're going to let this end. We will get ready for the 11 o'clock show on 10 Tampa Bay on TV. We're going to have all kinds of coverage for you there. We'll keep updating you here on our social media pages on 10 Tampa Bay Facebook, mine, Ryan, Carolina's, Autumn's as well too. You know, Grant and Natalie are getting some sleep right now. They will be in about 2 or 3 in the morning. We will be covering this for you all throughout the night. We still have some time to go, guys. We have to get past about 1 in the morning for the immediate Tampa area for some of that water to start to come down. And the flooding threat, depending on where this line ends up, is going to stay with us, regardless if you live by the water, by the Gulf, by the bay. But rainfall flooding threat is going to stick with us for the next several hours. And that will gradually go down as we go out through the day tomorrow. But we're going to have to deal with that overnight tonight. Thank you for watching. Please stay safe. We appreciate you.